Even the prestigious Astery family has a dark rumor spreading. They expel their own blood if one lacks talent. Everything started a month ago when the young master suddenly woke from a magic shock after muttering nonsense for a long time, and then unexpectedly bolted out of the manor. He didn't go to some horrific place, but stood in the rain to reach the edge of the woods. After digging until his hands bled, the thing clutched between his fingers. To everyone's surprise, turned out to be a weed. And from that day on, for an entire month without missing a single day, Leon did nothing but pull weeds. The Astery clan is a famous magical lineage with rigid rules. They remove members without aptitude, even if they share the bloodline. However, recently unfavorable rumors have been spreading within the family. Maid Collet lowered her voice cautiously while speaking to the others. Did you hear? This time it seems the eldest master still couldn't awaken. Helen hurriedly covered her mouth to stifle a cry. Really? This is the third time he's had a magic shock already. At this rate will the second young master become heir to the head of the family. One of them hastily signaled Helen to be careful. What if someone overhears? Collet quickly interjected. That's right, it can't be concluded yet. They chatted on, unaware Sylvia had been eavesdropping for who knows how long. 3 consecutive failures in the awakening ritual is dangerous. No wonder the eldest master went mad. Sabin agreed with Helen. That's right, he's always been eccentric, and this time it's said to be even worse. Suddenly Irvin croaked. What are you girls talking about? Collet and Helen both cried out in surprise. You really don't know. Collet's expression was terrifying as she recounted the story. It began a month ago. After the third magic shock, the eldest master lay bedridden for a long time. One day he suddenly woke, but as soon as he opened his eyes, he muttered a string of incomprehensible words, then abruptly ran out of the manor, as if he discovered something in the back garden. It said the eldest master even knelt down and dug the soil barehanded, to the point his hands were raw and bleeding. After frantic digging, the thing in his hand was... Remembering Leon's twisted expression then, he looked like he'd found a treasure, though others saw only trash. A single weed. Elvin and Sylvia couldn't believe they were hearing such strange news. A weed. Elvin wiped the beads of sweat from his face. Just pulling up one clump of grass, nothing to be so amazed about. The other 3 exclaimed in unison. The point isn't that. One of them said quietly, since that day, for a whole month, the eldest master did nothing but pull weeds. They didn't know Leon was fulfilling a system task to collect blue cinnamon herb. He kept uprooting clump after clump until they piled up before him and he felt satisfied. Today's harvest is enough. Leon's hands were caked with mud. He was also flustered to see people lingering around him. Why are so many looking at me today? Being the eldest son of a great mage family isn't pleasant at all. His name was Leon. No, more precisely, he had been Baekhyun, a Korean man. Previously, Leon led a small team at an ordinary small to medium company, but couldn't stand being oppressed by the firm and superiors. So, in anger, he resigned. After quitting, the only thing Leon had plenty of was time. So he replayed the game he'd once grinded obsessively while job hunting. When he logged back into play, he was shocked to realize a brutal truth. Some bastard had deleted all his characters and wiped out the money he'd spent. Who the hell would do that? Every character Leon had painstakingly leveled was gone. To be honest, he was sad since he had a bunch of max-level characters. But having cleared all the endgame content, he wasn't attached. So Leon made a new character and bought the crafter profession pack right away. He picked 5 profession slots at once to use, and the player luck was different this time. They were all big wins. Leon whistled happily. Fine, he's free anyway. This time he'll try living peacefully as a producer to heal his soul. That was the last memory of being Baekhyun, because after waking up, he had become Leon Asteria in the world of In the World. Moreover, the current time was 50 years after the main story's ending. Now Leon was both focused on gathering sea-scent herb and reflecting on old heartbreaking memories. Luckily, this body retained the previous owner's memories. Otherwise, at first, he would have gone mad from the shock. The system said sea-scent herb is a herb tasting bracingly salty like seawater. Collecting it completed his apprentice herbalist quest and awarded 1,000 shillings. The exclusive shop will unlock when he has enough money. Leon was surprised. Quick, and there's even a personal shop. He estimated quietly that about 100,000 shillings would unlock it. If he worked hard farming, maybe he'd escape this situation soon. Leon swiftly uprooted the clump of blue cinnamon herb and the sea-scent herb before him. Fortunately, the system windows still appeared normally, and the skills he'd bought in the game remained intact. And speaking of which, he recalled this body had apparently failed the 3rd awakening attempt. The Astery family values strength above all. Someone like Leon, who failed the mana awakening ritual, could be expelled from the clan at any moment, which wouldn't be surprising. To go out on his own first, he needed money. How to both earn money and quietly get out of here. A crazy idea suddenly flashed through Leon's mind. What if he bribed the head of the family? As soon as he thought that he wanted to sweep herbs across the whole region. So he had to level up fast and find something valuable to present to the Lord. What's with this blue glow? Leon dashed toward the shrubs like a blade. It must be a rare drop. As Leon predicted, it really was solar crimson herb. He didn't hesitate to yank it free, got it. Immediately, the system displayed information about the characteristics and uses of the new herb solar crimson herb. Leon was happier than if he'd found gold, another achievement unlocked. The elated feeling drowned out the calls around him. Young master. Leon's eyes shone like car headlights, and it was a 3-star achievement. But the more he ignored it, the more persistent the newcomer grew. Young master. Finally, Leon heard the housekeeper Sylvia call. Her gaze looked like she wanted to eat him alive. Lately, the young master seems really obsessed with pulling weeds. He replied honestly, I have my reasons. Leon suddenly stood up and asked her about the solar crimson herb in his hand. Right, Mrs. Sylvia. Do you see this? She examined it for a moment and answered. It seems to be a superior medicinal herb. However, Sylvia's answer wasn't what Leon wanted. Not that, it's glowing, don't you see it? He began to get flustered. You really don't see it. She looked at him as if he were mentally deficient, so the servant's rumors are true. She said calmly, yes, I see nothing. Leon was embarrassed by her gaze. He looked at the solar crimson herb with its glittering blue light in his hand and muttered. So only I can see it. Leon was simply checking whether the light around the herb was visible only to him. Sylvia could no longer stand seeing Leon in such a wrecked, bewildered state. Please come back, young master. You've been awake for quite some time, but haven't yet paid respects to the family head. He sent people to look for you. Leon jolted. He's looking for me. Asteria is a clan of absolute meritocracy. Even within the household, there's a law of the strong swallowing the weak. The outstanding get everything. The head of the Asteria clan is Patrick, the man Leon must curry favor with before he tries to run away. Leon felt anxious about his bleak future. He assumed that if he proved useless, the head would ignore him, so he hadn't expected to be summoned so soon. What now? He hasn't even prepared a bribe yet. It seemed he'd just come up with a clever plan to deal with Patrick. Leon messaged the person before him, Mrs. Sylvia. Could you tell him I'll come meet him a little later? Also, I need to ask you a favor. Sylvia really did pass the message to Patrick. Is that so? He calmly toyed with a blazing red magical flame in his hand. That brat still hasn't fully recovered. Kondo quickly answered, yes. Every day since he woke, the eldest young master has been pulling weeds. Patrick continued asking, anything else? Kondo bowed and reported honestly. He still can't sense mana, but his health is completely normal and his memories are intact. Patrick was so furious the wrinkles on his face looked like they might fold in on themselves. Step back. Kondo knew this was his chance to escape punishment, so he quickly performed a salute and withdrew. Patrick's voice turned ice cold. Sylvia, what exactly is that brat doing right now? She answered calmly, still pulling weeds. All the servants in the manor know about it. Of course, that information had to reach Patrick's ears. Sylvia poured more fuel on his anger. Recently, the eldest young master's weeding range has expanded into the forest outside the manor. Patrick's head started to steam. I didn't ask about that. It seemed Sylvia wanted to rile Patrick up. Oh right, the eldest young master also said he'd come to pay respects later. Patrick had lost his composure. What later? Later. He said he'd come later. The nerve of him. The Lord sprang up and shouted, no, tell him if he doesn't roll over here immediately I'll level that whole forest. Sylvia seemed so used to the clan's reactions she remained calm. Yes, I'll relay your exact words. After she left, Patrick could finally force himself to regulate his breathing. He used a magic orb to search for Leon's whereabouts. Oh dear, that insolent brat. Patrick sniffled as he scolded his grandson Leon. He's awake and should have come running to tell his grandfather. Grandfather, I'm well again. Instead, for weeks all he's done is bury his head in pulling weeds. When he returned to his room, Leon was shocked to realize, no way. The table was filled with many alchemy vials that looked like laboratory equipment. There was even aluminum and metal components. He cried out in glee, what are all these high-end tools for? Just because his grandson wanted to brew some medicine, his grandfather had taken out treasures like these. Truly, the descendants of nobility are different. Leon quickly opened the system panel to check skill attributes. So then, if his guess was right, the crafting profession level-up tasks would be the same repetitive grind as gathering. Proficiency levels would be divided into 3 tiers, the highest master tier achieved by only 1% of players. He tossed an herb into the clay pot. The higher the proficiency, the finer the technique and the better the product quality. He stirred the medicine while grinning foolishly like an idiot. Then I'll just make 100 recovery potions. and drink them all myself to see what happens. Thinking that, Leon immediately placed his hand over the steaming pot's mouth. He shouted loudly, "Extract." A moment later, a thick red liquid foamed up inside the pot. The liquid, guided by Leon's magic, slid itself into the test tube on the table, and the system announced the successful crafting of a stamina recovery potion. Leon was extremely satisfied with the stamina potion before him. Success. He didn't even bother to taste test it and downed a bottle of the draft. Good gear is truly a blessing. And at that moment the system reported he had used a potion and become an apprentice alchemist. Leon grinned like an idiot, just as I thought, grandfather. The whole room and even his mind at that moment had no light left. Wait for me, kiddo. The more he drank, the more the progress bar on the system increased. Leon drank the potions, heedless of his life. In the end, he was almost spent. I can't drink anymore. The table was strewn with nearly empty potion bottles. His stamina was already at 100%, yet he forced himself to drink more recovery potions. What torture is this? Just one last sip, hang on. Leon forced down the final drop. His whole body trembled uncontrollably, but the sweet reward of 1,000 shillings was truly in Leon's hands. Finally he'd unlocked a new formula. Leon muttered to himself, "Good. Skim the details, and now let's begin." He madly threw the pile of herbs he'd gathered into the pot to brew. While gathering herbs, he kept wondering what present would be appropriate to give the Lord. His grandfather possessed enormous mana, so giving a mana recovery potion would mean nothing. And for stamina recovery, the clan always had a chief healing mage on call, so that would be odd too. Then he thought of a potion that could dispel mental fatigue. Now Leon focused on brewing it. After all, the Lord dealt with a mountain of work every day. It said great mages can use mana to continuously sustain their bodies, so overwork isn't a problem for them. But mental exhaustion is a different matter. Leon was truly serious about creating this meaningful gift. The potion in the pot shimmered exactly as the recipe described, its aroma fresh and pleasant. He quickly poured it into a vial. I have a very good feeling about this. In the game, it was just a miscellaneous item. Yet in reality, it felt completely different. Leon once more placed his hand on the newly brewed vial and shouted, "Extract." Droplets of sparkling liquid kept shifting and changing by magic. It contained countless fond memories of Leon from when he was Beek Yihyun. The system announced activation of the alchemy specialization. Leon had successfully crafted a mental recovery potion. He hadn't expected the result to exceed his hopes. A 2-star item. This requires at least level 8 proficiency to create. Amazing. With this, he definitely has something worthy to bribe the Lord. I was utterly exhausted, yet just smelling it cleared my mind completely. It works even without drinking. He had successfully crafted a potion beyond his current skill level. The system informed Leon that a mana ring had formed, and mana regulation had been activated. Now he could manipulate mana with greater precision. Leon quietly waited for the new skill to stabilize further, still clutching the newly made vial in his hand. Now Leon had successfully awakened his mana. He was overjoyed. Is this mana? Leon couldn't help but laugh, but the smile grew increasingly inhuman. He had no idea someone had been waiting outside all along. Finally I had. As it turned out, Kondo had been secretly watching him through the crack in the door. He gave no extra expression, and ultimately turned to walk away. Kondo quickly moved out of the room's vicinity. For Leon, everything that happened today went extremely smoothly. This body couldn't sense mana before, and now he had mana and could earn money too. Perfect. Looks like the plan to leave the clan will go off without a hitch. Harsh sunlight streamed through the window into the room. He hurriedly closed his eyes to savor the pleasure he had just achieved. But a second later his face immediately twisted, yet it seemed he had forgotten something. After thinking for a long moment, Leon finally called out in a low voice, "Grandfather." Patrick frowned slightly and asked, "Why hasn't Leon arrived yet?" He shook his head and sighed in exasperation. "It's just brewing a few potions. Why must it be so troublesome?" Patrick spoke slowly with dignity. "Who am I? I am Patrick Asteria." He continued proudly, one of the pillars of the hero's team. Patrick's gaze darkened and his voice rang with pride. The head of the Asteria clan could found an independent nation at will. Those titles all belong to me. He helplessly thought of his only grandson. If the boy would just stay put, he'd spend his life in luxury, with nothing to worry about. What does he intend to do with that frail body? Patrick snorted coldly and asked in return, "Are we short of money or power?" Sylvia smiled and replied softly, "It's understandable for the head to be worried." She hesitated for a moment and then continued, "But..." Sylvia curved her lips and softened her gaze. The young master was genuinely happy while crafting potions. He immediately dismissed that heavily. What use is being happy if he might face death? Patrick gripped the armrest, his face pained. This is the 3rd time he's suffered a mana shock. You know it's hard to survive even one. His voice grew heavy. I can't keep hopping for a miracle to let the boy survive again, outside Kondo said as he walked. Young master, the head has waited a long time. Leon smiled faintly. I knew it. Patrick fell silent, eyes briefly showing sorrow. I only hope the boy can be a bit healthier. He bowed respectfully and said, with your permission, my lord. Kondo looked up and slowly reported, the eldest young master has arrived. Leon stepped into the room and bowed an apology. Please forgive me for arriving late. The head looked him over and reproved lightly, you've been out of bed for quite some time, so why only now come to see me? Hearing Patrick say that, Leon let out a worried sigh. After pondering for a moment, he spoke. After this mana shock, I've done a lot of thinking. Leon calmly spoke the truth. Everyone in the clan knows you have no gift for magic. The lady stepped forward and worriedly called the young master. He gave a slight smile and gently reassured her. It's all right, Lady Sylvia, I'm well aware of that. Leon lowered his eyes and calmly confessed, I could not accept that I was someone who couldn't control mana. It's not that I didn't want to accept it. He squeezed his hand lightly, his voice falling, because the moment I accepted that truth, I felt I would no longer have a place in this clan. Leon raised his head, his gaze growing resolute, but now it's different. This is the result of my study and effort. He broke into a confident smile. I can accept myself and be a young master worthy of the Asteria name. Leon suddenly changed tone and continued sincerely. Also, I think you've been very tired lately. Patrick stiffened for a moment. What is it? He silently observed the person before him, thinking the boy was different somehow. Not in expression or bearing, no, something more fundamental. Patrick fell quiet, his gaze fixed on the item placed before him. He wavered slightly, wondering inwardly whether the boy had been making this for him all along. Patrick nodded slowly, secretly impressed, truly commendable. He sighed softly, and told himself he'd long since exceeded ordinary limits. Patrick shook his head inwardly. Ordinary poisons no longer affect me, let alone a potion like this. Leon smiled sincerely and said, I thought of you, grandfather, while making it. He gently pushed the gift toward him. Try it when you have time. Patrick smiled slightly, a joy rising he could not hide. The head pondered a moment, then spoke. Have you finished speaking? Leon bowed his head and answered softly, yes. Patrick nodded, his tone even. I understand, you may withdraw. He bowed slightly and turned to leave the room. Sylvia smiled and quietly remarked, he says that, but it seems the head is quite happy. Patrick cleared his throat, feigning nonchalance. All right, it's nothing. He cast his eyes to the vial before him. But this potion. Patrick narrowed his eyes, trying to recall. I feel like I've seen this somewhere before. Sylvia studied the vial closely and said, if it were merely a mana recovery potion, there should be a mana fluctuation. Shall we send it for analysis? He immediately shook his head to refuse. No need. Patrick looked at the vial in his hand, voice lowering. I want to feel the sincerity of my grandson myself. Sylvia smiled, sighed softly, then glanced toward him. She bowed her head respectfully and said, I understand. Then I'll take my leave first. Patrick brushed the vial's surface and smiled faintly. How long has it been since Leon last gave me a gift? He quietly examined the gift and murmured in admiration. Looking closely, the boy's craftsmanship is indeed quite good. Even with first-rate tools, without mastery of pharmacology and alchemy, one couldn't complete this in a day or two. The kid really is. Patrick chuckled softly and muttered, though this won't benefit me. It's a gift from my grandson. Too wasteful to let it spoil. Let's see how it tastes. He slowly opened the vial and took a sip of the potion. Patrick leaned back leisurely in his chair, eyes half closed with fatigue. He stared blankly and felt quietly. My mind suddenly grows peaceful, so relaxed. Lines of memory surfaced in his mind, past recollections, fragment by fragment passing like shards. Patrick suddenly remembered the time that had passed. He gradually drifted into sleep, quietly sensing things, and before long he fell into a deep, short nap, not even worth calling sleep. In the dream, Patrick smiled faintly, and that dream was unusually peaceful and sweet. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes and looked ahead. Patrick was briefly dazed, filled with nostalgia, the dream of days he always missed. He blinked in surprise and said, Did I fall asleep? He silently felt changes in his body, yet he felt no discomfort or emptiness. He clenched his hand, astonished. Strangely, my head feels much lighter. The headache that seemed eternal has completely vanished. Patrick sat quietly, brooding at his desk, his gaze distant. He gave a resigned chuckle and muttered, stubborn just like the boy. Patrick propped his chin, his gaze growing determined. That's right, we can't keep him caged just because his body is weak. We only need to find a way to prevent mana shocks. He stroked the vial with longing. Please stay healthy by your grandfather's side for a long time, Leon. In a corner of the yard, Colette widened her eyes in shock. What young Master Leon Asteria is about to die. Helen leaned in and whispered, That's right. I heard he even gave the head a farewell gift. She lowered her voice as if she knew everything. So these past days he's been out pulling weeds every day. Eska crossed his arms and sneered. What else would he be doing? Probably picking out his burial spot. A loud noise suddenly rang from behind, making him scream and jump. She flustered and made an excuse to leave. Yes, someone asked me to help gather the clothes. Eska hurriedly waved the others away. Come on, everyone get back to work. Kondo looked at her and asked softly, Hannah, are you all right? She shook her head slightly and sighed. It's fine, I heard the young master's attendant resigned again. He widened his eyes in surprise. What, again? Hannah scowled and clenched her fist. That's right, those people are really too much. Before they said serving the young master was the easiest job and were glad to get it. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. Now they dare quit without notice over baseless rumors. Once employed by the clan, you must share hardship. They have no loyalty at all. Hannah snorted indignantly. Haven't they received so many favors from the young master over the years? Yet they repay him by abandoning him over rumors. Kondo suddenly went pale and hurriedly warned, Hannah, behind you. Then a calm voice unexpectedly sounded from behind. Hannah, startled, spun around and stammered, Steward. Sylvia smiled politely and asked, could you tell me what those rumors are about? She kept a gentle smile and added slowly, I'm curious too. Sylvia bowed slightly and said, I'm sorry for arriving late. He waved his hand and replied calmly, it's nothing, is there an emergency? She smiled and gently shook her head, nothing serious. Sylvia strode over at leisure and continued, just tidying up some household matters. After all, it's early morning. Did you call me for something? Patrick watched her quietly, his eyes briefly showing worry. He pushed the vial forward and said in a low voice, with your diviner's eyes, could you examine this potion for me? Sylvia lowered her gaze and scrutinized the vial on the table. She frowned slightly, doubt in her voice. This is not something the young master could have made. Sylvia froze, her eyes flickering. This is. She opened her eyes wide in disbelief. Isn't this the hero's potion? Sylvia slowly recalled the past. The hero, savior of the world, who ended the war with the demon tribes 50 years ago and then suddenly vanished. She continued with reverence. No maze in the world could imprison him. Sylvia tightened her hand, her voice dropping. A legendary figure even the gods feared, and a flicker of hope rose in her heart. Perhaps the only one who could find the hidden contract in this mansion's maze and free us. The only one. Sylvia inhaled and asserted, this is something only the hero could possess. Patrick remained composed and said slowly, let's not jump to conclusions. If this truly were the hero's potion, its effects would be far stronger than this. She fell silent, still troubled inwardly moreover. Sylvia shook her head softly, denying it to herself. Leon could not possibly be the hero. He looked at her and said slowly, regardless, I plan to have the boy make a better potion. I want you to feel the same relief I did. What? Sylvia exclaimed, let me. Patrick smiled and explained calmly, that's right. Haven't you lived in a lethargic state for centuries? If this vial helps an eight-circle archmage like me, I think it could help you too, even if only a little. She only gave a wry, helpless smile at that. Then Sylvia laughed out loud, her voice echoing through the room. She shook her head and said, do you know the most useless thing in the world? Worrying about a witch. Our kind are born with 1,000-year lifespans, bodies immune to disease and superior mana and skills. Sylvia's smile softened as she continued quietly. So there's no need to trouble our dear grandson. She fell silent for a moment and then smiled, however. Sylvia looked at Patrick with gentle eyes. I truly appreciate your kindness. He fell into a trance and softly called, Sylvia. After a while, Leon entered from outside and asked, you seem to have something on your mind. Patrick raised an eyebrow and replied at once, what would I be brooding about? Leon studied his expression and asked, did you sleep poorly last night? Patrick shook his head to deny it. No. Leon propped his chin, feigning thoughtfulness, lack of exercise. The head answered curtly, no. Leon tilted his head and seriously guessed, or is it old age making you unable to eat fatty food? Patrick glared, the kid's bold, but Leon continued calmly if it's not for those reasons. He glanced at the vial on the table. Could it be because of the potion I gave you? The head froze and confirmed inwardly, that's right. Patrick dropped the teasing tone and got serious. All right, no time to waste. I'll get straight to the point. Can you produce a potion of higher quality than the one you gave me? Leon frowned and calculated silently. Given the current situation, creating a 2-star potion would already be difficult. He frowned, thinking to himself that he couldn't find any more 1-star herbs anywhere. Leon sighed and continued to ponder. Last time was just luck, mostly thanks to the equipment, but he clenched his fist lightly, eyes full of resolve. I can't miss this opportunity with the sponsor showing interest. I must seize it at all costs. Leon looked up and answered calmly. It will take some time, but I can do it. May I ask what you intend to use it for? Patrick replied immediately in a matter-of-fact tone. I plan to give it to the steward. He widened his eyes in surprise, unable to hide his astonishment. Leon blinked, a guess immediately forming in his mind. I can feel it, they're clearly flirting. In his imagination, he nonchalantly said, I just happened to pick this up. Sylvia flushed and replied softly, Housemaster. An unexpected voice interrupted the thought, that's not it. The more he thought, the more he believed his suspicion. Of course he wants to give his beloved something better than what he brought. He must have been lonely for a long time since she passed. The rebutting voice sounded again, helplessly, I told you it's not like that. Leon took a deep breath and said seriously, Grandfather, please give me 2 weeks and I'll make a potion superior to the one I gave you before. Patrick's eyes widened in astonishment. What 2 weeks? Seeing his reaction, Leon hesitated for a moment, then immediately changed his mind and declared firmly, I'll finish it in 1 week, just wait. He silently cheered himself on. This is my chance to lock in those favor points. I have to succeed. Patrick could only stare in stunned silence as Leon hurried out of the room and into the garden. He raked his hands through his hair in frustration. How am I supposed to craft a 3-star potion? As he walked, Leon wrestled with the problem. There isn't time to mindlessly grind levels to make a good potion, and even if he bought high-grade herbs, he couldn't use them correctly. He'd be better off buying a ready-made potion with that money. He suddenly remembered something and snapped his fingers. Wait, check the shilling shop. Maybe there are some useful ingredients there. A notice board popped up before Leon. Unlock to preview potions, view item list, item descriptions. He stared and frowned. What, so I still can't buy them? Leon skimmed each item, a twitch at his mouth. Hold on, why is everything here so expensive? Is that a gold-plated key? It's all worn out, so it should be cheap. He continued browsing the catalog, his face frozen. He couldn't believe the other items were the same. Leon looked helplessly at the price list. Spices cost 10,000 shillings, and there's still nothing he can buy here. He sighed softly and told himself if this won't work, then the only option left is the usual way. Leon quietly weighed the remaining plan. There are limits to foraging high-grade herbs by hand. He quickly identified his target for gathering high-grade herbs. What he needed now was, Leon nodded to himself, high-quality tools. Near the smithy, the sound of hammering metal rang without cease. Saul glanced inside and called out, Boss, come here. From the workshop, Mudu replied irritably, No, I'm swamped. What's with the call? Saul urged anxiously, hurry up. Sean pointed toward the doorway, grinning broadly. A big spender's here. Come on. Mudu paused and instantly changed tone, a big spender. Mudu snorted while working. If it's a big spender, then gouge him and sell everything to him. Why give me orders? Leon stepped up to the counter and politely asked, Are you the owner of this smithy? He calmly explained his purpose. May I borrow the place to try forging a few things? Mudu mentally sized up the customer. Clearly a wealthy young master, you can tell by his expensive clothes. Mudu stared blankly and blurted, What? Leon smiled confidently. Of course I don't refuse. He calmly offered terms. I'll pay you generously, what do you think? After a quick walk around the shop, Leon stopped at a counter displaying tools. He picked up each item to inspect and assess secretly. The quality was a bit poor and wouldn't last long. Maybe the smiths don't bother making these small tools since they're overpriced. I'd rather make one myself. Leon folded his arms and continued calculating. Even if I reveal I'm the eldest son of the Asteria clan to commission the smiths, they couldn't finish high-grade equipment in 1 day. If so, he stepped up to the workshop and asked politely, May I borrow the place to try forging a few things myself? Sean looked up, surprised, Forge yourself? Leon calmly made the offer, I'll pay you generously. The coin pouch opened, gold coins glittering and spread before everyone's eyes. Mudu frowned and grumbled irritably, The fire's been acting up already and now we have to cater to a noble's toy. Sean went pale and grabbed his arm, pleading, Please, keep your mouth shut a bit. Sean turned to Leon and explained politely, Young master, you grew up in silk and satin so you may not know the world. But this money is enough to buy Mudu a shovel. Please take your pouch back. He smiled awkwardly and warned, There are always con artists waiting for fat prey these days, be careful. Leon blinked, half amused and half exasperated. I'm intentionally overpaying. He nodded reluctantly and said fine. Mudu folded his arms and regarded him with suspicion. So, he raised an incredulous brow and asked, A soft nobleman, you want to forge a shovel with your own hands? At those words, Leon unconsciously recalled the notes he'd read. The dwarf race. He slowly remembered in his mind. The race that could touch fire without being burned. Leon continued recalling the rest of the description. Possessing extraordinary strength, yet meticulous precision. He looked at Mudu in silent amazement. Rumor says only descendants remain. I didn't expect to find one here. Mudu stared at the guest and asked, What's your name? Leon answered calmly, Leon. He paused, then blurted out, the infamous mad name of the Asteria clan. Mudu turned and shouted back, hey, prepare a spot for this eccentric guest. Sean pressed his forehead and sighed, hurriedly protesting, oh my, please, tone it down a bit. He pointed to a corner of the workshop and said, you can use the forge over there, boss. Do whatever you want with that kid. Leon nodded quietly in thanks, thank you. He suddenly remembered something and asked, by the way, what's your name? Leon glanced around, then froze. The man had left. Sean smiled and stepped forward to explain, my older brother's name is Milan Mudu. Just call him Mudu, and I'm Sean. Please follow me first. He bowed politely and led the way. I'll take you on a tour of the smithy. As he walked, he smiled and introduced things. Take your time looking around. He guided him on a full tour of the workshop, thoughtfully explaining each area. Sean pointed to the front display and added, and after an item is finished, it will be showcased outside. Leon observed everything quietly. The equipment was excellent and the process meticulous, but he frowned slightly, full of doubt. Why is the finished quality so poor? Leon suddenly turned to look at the forge. What was that just now? The system voice immediately rang out. A low-grade fire spirit. It's quieter than usual. He looked at the flame and asked Sean, is the forge's flame normally this weak? Sean hesitated and answered, it's not exactly weak right now, but... Sean sighed and explained, the firepower has definitely declined compared to before, but how did you know that? Leon smiled and replied calmly, the flame told me. He went on, then let me show you how to make a shovel. Mudu's voice suddenly sounded behind them. Wait, stop. He looked at his younger brother and ordered decisively, Sean, get back to your work. I need to speak with him privately. Stepping outside, Mudu spoke slowly, sir. He looked Leon straight in the eyes, voice serious. You saw it, didn't you? Leon nodded slightly in confirmation. Yes. He studied him intently and asked in a low voice, can you fix it? Leon answered calmly, probably yes. Mudu hesitated at that, then clenched his fists tighter. He took a deep breath and laid out a condition. If you truly can repair this, I will personally teach you smithing. Mudu gazed at him seriously. I'll give you priority on any commission orders. Leon was moved by the offer. The smithy in this territory was famous enough to take orders from other territories. He immediately realized the value of that priority. Smiling confidently, Leon said, fine, leave it to me. Inside the forge, the weak flame flickered in the air. As Leon slowly stepped up to the sputtering fire, Mudu watched quietly, heavy-hearted. I'd worked myself to turn this place into the territory's largest smithy, but the fire spirit has exhausted its energy. He clenched his fist and thought helplessly, without the spirit, relying on artificial heat will ruin product quality. I'm reaching the limit of compensating with skill. I'm a dwarf, so I don't even understand what the spirit is saying. At this rate, we're doomed. Leon looked at the flame and asked calmly, what if we just leave it as is? Mudu assessed him silently. He looked thin and untrustworthy, but if he can really see the spirit. Leon listened for a moment, then spoke. It told me it's thirsty. Mudu's eyes widened in surprise. Thirsty. A fire spirit that's thirsty. Mudu scratched his head, seriously considering, should we pour some water on it? Leon immediately objected. Pour water on the fire, are you insane? He spread his hands, looking aggrieved. Hey, you said it's thirsty. What do you want us to do? Leon took a breath and explained calmly, calm down, Mudu. We need to give it something a fire spirit can actually drink. Mudu looked at him with hope. If you can solve this, I'll give you my masterpiece or anything you want. Leon raised an eyebrow to confirm, are you serious? Mudu nodded without hesitation, yes, I'm serious, and Leon's mouth twitched with confident amusement. Leon smiled and said decisively, good, I'll start tonight. Night fell and the light in his room still burned faintly. Leon rubbed his forehead and sighed. I didn't expect to still be doing overtime here. The system voice suddenly rang out. Low-grade spirit crying out, the spirit's essence is depleted. Soothe its thirst. Leon chuckled and replied, okay, I'll help you right away. Leon reviewed the info and analyzed silently. The low-grade fire spirit is severely dehydrated. Normally, it wouldn't be completely exhausted, but this is the largest forge in the territory. For a spirit to die from overwork or dehydration is ridiculous. He quickly identified the solution. Now that he knew the problem, what he needed was sea scent herb. A recipe board appeared, sea scent oil formula. He read and muttered, normally it's just a salty-tasting herb. But after several processing steps, it becomes an oil the fire spirit can absorb. The system immediately confirmed the sea scent oil had been crafted. Leon looked at the result and nodded softly, done. He carefully brought the oil bottle near the flame. Here, drink. The system voice sounded again. The thirst has been eased. The spirit's attributes harmonized with the sea scent oil. But the next notification appeared quickly. The thirst is not yet satisfied. Leon exhaled and rolled up his sleeves. All right, I'll make more. Shortly after, he set about processing more ingredients. Leon nimbly completed each step without delay. The system announced again that the thirst had been quenched and the essence restored. Another line appeared. The spirit is grateful, empathy experience increased. He smiled faintly at the flame, thanks. Mudu stood silent for a long moment, then blurted out, "This eccentric kid, you really did it." He looked at him with admiration. "You truly are remarkable." Mudu suddenly went pale when he saw Leon stagger. "Are you okay?" Leon waved his hand and forced a smile. "I'm fine." Leon kept a calm face and explained, "Just from staying up all night, it's nothing." He immediately shook his head, shouting in alarm, "No." Mudu hurriedly supported him, frantically saying, "You mustn't die like this, young man." A while later in the kitchen, thick with cooking aromas, the adorable Thorn and Leaf curiously pressed close to the table and asked, "Big brother, what's your name?" Before he could answer, the two kids started arguing. "I'm Thorn made of gold, and I'm Leaf made of jade." The cuteness of the pair made everyone smile. They were so close to each other. Seeing their closeness, he suddenly felt a pang and thought about whether he had any siblings. What would they look like? If I remember right, they'd be prickly and probably not very fond of me. After thinking a while, he brushed it off to comfort himself. "Well, as long as we don't meet, it's fine. Besides, I'm not interested in being the head of the family." A loud scold from behind made Leon start and turn around. "Oh my, you children." Ria rushed over to scold the mischievous kids. "Go play over there. The young master is eating." "Oh, so he's the young master." He chuckled softly and reintroduced himself. "My name is Leon." Thorn was excited because she preferred nicknames. "But calling him young master sounded cooler, so I'll call you young master." "That's fine." Chased off, the two children ran and teased playfully. "You two, don't disturb the young master's meal anymore. Young master, young master." Leon ate breakfast with Mudu's wife. "I'm very sorry, young master, they're still too young." "It's fine, watching lively kids is pleasant. By the way, this soup is delicious. Glad it suits your taste." The woman couldn't hide her worry, remembering earlier, young master. "When my husband brought you back this morning, I was so startled." Ria expressed deep gratitude for his help. "I've heard how much you suffered for him, and you even took on solving the problem. I don't know how to repay this, but you've given me shelter and meals, so we're even." Just then a child's voice called out, "Dad's home." The children rushed out, excited to greet their father. "Dad, did the young master cure the spirit? Your face is all smudged again, you little rascals." Leon smiled gently and suggested they get ready to depart. "If you've finished eating, let's go." Mudu broke into a confident, hearty smile. "I've prepared everything." He was astonished by what appeared before his eyes. Leon was stunned by the luxurious gold-framed wooden board placed beside the freshly finished sharp farming tools. "This is..." "I told you, whatever you request, I'll always prioritize it. If we're both busy, just write your needs here and I'll make and deliver them to you." Mudu cheerfully stepped ahead to lead the young master. "After all, it's not an important matter. Come in quickly." He was astonished to see blocks of raw iron before him. Mudu explained his thorough preparations. "Is this iron? Judging by your physique, if we started from ore smelting, you'd probably faint, so I prepared the materials. This iron was forged by a descendant of the dwarf clan." He realized the smith's seriousness about teaching. "You teach more rigorously than I expected. What? Don't tell me you're going to rush through this." Leon was eager to begin his first smithing lesson right away. "Of course not. I want to learn right here. What should I do first?" The smith decided to demonstrate first. "That's right. That's the spirit. Let me show you how it's done first." The first lesson is mastering the metal's temperature. First, the most basic thing in forging is the iron's temperature. You must monitor the temperature precisely. Not too cool, not too hot. Glowing red isn't everything, but if it melts, you'll end up with molten iron. A fire spirit appeared. When the iron is just the right red, the forging moment arrives at this instant. The hammer blows rang out. The force of each strike shapes the weapon. Impact force is crucial. Thin the blade section, hammer the rest thicker so it's sturdy. Finally comes filing and sharpening to finish the piece. Once the basic shape is set, file it down and use a grindstone to sharpen the edge. He was completing the final steps on the hoe. Just attach the handle and the hoe was finished, emitting a brilliant aura. "The hoe is complete. How is it? Easy, right?" Mudu confidently asserted his craftsmanship. "That's right. For an ordinary person, this isn't easy at all, but with legendary Mudu here to help you, don't worry. May I use up this batch of iron?" He was shocked by the young master's action. "Of course, go ahead and use it, really." Understood. Leon tossed the iron straight into the fire, which alarmed him. "What do you mean, understood?" He calmly faced the blazing fire. "I'll give it a try and see." The sound of iron forging rose, powerful and decisive. He wearily wiped sweat after the first hammer strikes. "Expected, but it's much harder than I thought." System notifications kept appearing challengingly. "Hoe not completed. Status: Irrecoverable. Oh no, this must be remelted in the fire before continuing. Hoe incomplete, completion rate 15%, unclear whether this hoe can be finished. Leon was undeterred and persisted in training. It's tough, but I can't stop now. Repeating this over and over, he'll get it eventually. The arduous training began with countless consecutive failures. He began to grasp the secret of maintaining precise temperature. That's it. Leon confidently drove powerful hammer blows into the glowing iron. Just like before, dazzling light burst from each decisive strike of his hammer. The system unexpectedly notified that he had awakened an entirely new talent. This kid. The smith was astonished when he saw the blazing bar of iron in his hands. That was just now. Try using that to make something. The stunned look in his eyes as he sensed an unusual aura. It felt completely different from before. Leon broke into a cold sweat, intensely focused on the hot iron bar. The hammer blows resounded. The basic forging stage officially began. He cheered in joy when he completed the first hoe. It's done. The handcrafted hoe increases the chance of obtaining higher-grade items. Mudu praised his talent without restraint. You're pretty good. This odd kid has a knack. Looks fine to me. Not just fine. This is true talent. Be proud of it. You finished one, so take a short break. Really? What should I do next? Leon eagerly asked to learn crafting a new tool. Teach me how to make a sickle. The sudden request left the smith utterly astonished. He laughed heartily at his determination and stubbornness. When it comes to stubbornness, you're a real fanatic. Mudu cheerfully agreed to teach every secret. Good, I'll teach you everything, I'll teach you everything. He silently promised his family as night began to fall. Grandfather, wait a little. I'll definitely finish your love story. The hoe was slammed into the ground, marking the start of a new journey. Close-up details appeared for the rare herb just harvested. Finger ginseng, a plant similar in effect to wild ginseng but shaped like a finger, requiring extremely delicate collection methods. When decocted and used properly, it boosts stamina. He was amazed by the superior performance of the newly forged hoe. Just upgrading to a better hoe makes such a difference. But he quickly realized this was only the beginning, not the whole story. A shimmering, magical forest appeared with countless hidden herbs waiting. Having a hoe and sickle lets you gather many more types of herbs. Leon smiled confidently at the prospect of advancing his skills. If his digging mastery increases a bit more, he could reach 3-star herb gatherer. He eagerly got to work to drill his practice further. Then I'll try digging more to get the feel. New item information kept appearing during harvesting. Banana sweet potato leaf, banana sweet potato stem. Spotting the tuber revealed under the deep hole, he cried out with delight. Just as I thought, this shape is a sweet potato, which means beneath this layer of soil. As he struck the hoe down hard, a burst of flame suddenly flared up and startled him. A fragrant roasted sweet potato appeared along with an unexpectedly triggered blessing notification. The blessing of the low-level fire spirit hidden in the hoe had been activated. He received a perfectly roasted sweet potato thanks to the fire spirit's blessing. Roasted sweet potato. Leon carefully read the instructions and inferred that the fire spirit's blessing has a certain chance to produce a perfectly roasted consumable. I guess this works on any edible item. Amazing. I only swung the hoe once and already got a perfect roasted sweet potato. The golden, fragrant roasted sweet potato in his hand made his mouth water. Without another second's thought, Leon decided to eat it immediately. Eat first. Then he bit off a huge piece. The first bite made him float with bliss. Hot, but that only makes it taste better. Sweet potatoes taste best when they're hot enough to burn the mouth. It's perfectly sweet with a nutty, creamy flavor, like eating a regular sweet potato with milk. To Leon, the roasted banana sweet potato was like a divine delicacy. So good. The aroma even attracted a small bird to fly nearby. Seeing its bright, pleading eyes, he understood. What's the matter? You want some too? Then he broke off a small piece and offered it. Here you go. It pecked curiously and took a bite, its eyes shifting from curiosity to the same sparkle Leon had moments ago. Seeing its expression, he chuckled. Tasty, right? Go ahead and eat. It fluttered excitedly over the tasty food, making Leon a bit nostalgic. I once had a friend like you when I played this game. I wonder what happened to them. After finishing the meal, he rose gently, dawn breaking behind him. Now that he had some energy, should I start gathering ingredients to craft the medicine? First, I should dig up a few more sweet potatoes. Meanwhile, at the mansion, a woeful sigh could be heard. It was none other than Kondo, leaning on a pillar with an anxious look. It's been 3 days since young Master Leon left. Why did he go to the smithy? This is driving me crazy. Should I go find him now? Behind him, Sylvia showed no sign of worry. It seemed the eldest young master still hadn't returned. Not knowing how long she had been standing there, Kondo turned in surprise. Housekeeper. Yes, I'm beside myself with worry. There are even strange rumors spreading through the estate that the eldest young master is about to die. or will be expelled from the family. His rambling was cut off by an excited voice. Oh look, it's Leon with a new companion on his shoulder. Everyone's been waiting outside. He saw the person they'd waited for return and shouted, "Young master." Kondo hurried over to him. "Young master, my heavens, look at your state." Leon reassured him softly, "I'm fine." "It's nothing," but Sylvia frowned, displeased at brushing it off with a scratch on the head. How could the eldest son of the Asteria clan look like this? Kondo pointed curiously at the bird. "By the way, what's that bird?" Only then did Leon notice something perched on his shoulder. "What the? When did you start following me?" Suddenly Sylvia stepped forward and cut in. "Young master, you don't need to do that anymore." He immediately grasped the meaning behind her words. "Grandfather told you, didn't he?" He sighed helplessly. He really had no tact at all. Her attitude left Sylvia momentarily stunned. He continued, "Anyway, the week I asked for isn't up yet, so please wait a little longer. I'm a bit late because I was collecting ingredients, but I've gathered them all." She was astonished. "You've gathered the ingredients." Leon ran inside, then turned back to reply. "So wait a little longer, I'll craft it as fast as I can." "Kondo, I'm fine, so go back to your work," he said with a pitiful, stammering look. "But young master, at least have those scratches treated, won't you?" Kondo ran after him, calling, "Young master," leaving Sylvia alone and still worried. She thought to herself that, as a sorceress, most available medicines had no effect on her. I don't know what Patrick told the boy, but of all the Asteria family members I've seen, Leon was the weakest and the child who pained me most. Yet seeing him toil at the forge all night to gather herbs, it's foolish but a faint, tiny hope began to stir. Memories of him as a child made her truly doubt whether Leon could accomplish this impossible task. Could the boy really actually craft that kind of medicine? A few days later, Sylvia went to see Patrick in person. He permitted her to enter. "I'm here." Judging from her expression, I guess the vial of medicine has taken effect. Present-day Sylvia no longer wore a sorrowful expression. She spoke proudly. "My mind and emotions, which had grown dim and withered for decades, suddenly became as clear as crystal. I knew the boy worked hard, but I didn't expect him to be able to craft a medicine that affects me in such a short time. This should be impossible unless you did something, madam." He denied it at once. "Sylvia, I did nothing. I've been busy enough preparing for Leon's coming-of-age ceremony." The ceremony was cancelled because of his mana shock. Truly, there are mountains of paperwork behind it. Sylvia seriously voiced her prediction. If Leon truly crafted a medicine of this caliber by himself, it leads to another problem. This is indeed exactly like a hero's medicine. According to legend, the hero is an entity who appears alongside the monsters to save the world before it is swallowed by darkness. But that being's personal life was never called happy. They had to fight countless battles to rescue a chaotic world, constantly tasting despair and emptiness from every choice they made. Once peace was restored to the world, that person would suddenly disappear, like a single-use tool meant only to save the world. Patrick agreed. Yes, that person vanished without a trace, as if simply evaporating. Their remaining comrades and descendants have been trying to find that hero, but we still haven't found any trace. If by some miraculous chance Leon really is the hero, what should we do? Losing comrades who fought at our side was already more than enough. I do not want to endure that pain again with my own grandson. Sylvia paused for a moment, then she smiled. Then it's time to hide our beloved child very carefully. This old Sylvia will now retire. Patrick was shocked. What? You can't do that? That's absurd. Would you give up your own freedom just to hide Leon? I don't want to live bound to this house forever. If it were me, I'd find that hidden contract and let you rest. Contrary to Patrick's vehement objection, she replied calmly, "Patrick, worrying about a sorceress is the most useless thing in the world. I have memorized the terms of the contract already. Sorceress Sylvia cannot leave this territory. Sorceress Sylvia can live as a human within this territory." At that moment, someone appeared by the window and spoke up. "Because our beloved child helped me live more like a human." It was another version of Sylvia. She smiled with delight. "So I will gladly stay by his side to protect the boy." Time passed until the white castle was painted in the colors of sunset. In the study, books were stacked in disarray when a deep male voice said, "A new maid has arrived, and she's Leon's personal maid. That young man is Rixel, the second young master of the Asteria clan. Rixel is an unparalleled prodigy, and the next inheritor of the Grand Mage family. He is the youngest Four-Circle Mage. He is also the descendant who most resembles Lord Patrick in every aspect. His youth is not a weakness but a formidable weapon. For someone like him, having a new servant is highly suspicious." He raised an eyebrow. In front of him was a resume for Sylvia, but the portrait showed that black-haired girl. He wondered how she'd worked here so long only to quit over a single vial of medicine. Her retirement made no sense, and yet the moment Sylvia left, a new servant appeared. Something odd was going on. Time rewound to last night. It turned out Rixel had met Sylvia yesterday. He sat cross-legged, skeptical of her resignation. She looked unusually radiant. Is she really retiring? Sylvia didn't reveal the truth and instead replied, yes, I wanted to come bid you farewell one last time before I go. Young Master Leon's medicine helped me a great deal. Of course he refused to accept that. I still can't believe it. Sylvia suggested, if you want to verify my words, why not visit the eldest young master? When you were little you always trailed after him. That eased some tension. He blushed slightly. Well, that was when I was a child. Sylvia repeated the point again, young master. You may find it hard to believe, but everything I said is true. If you ever grow curious, just follow the eldest young master for a while. It costs nothing. Those words circled in Rixel's mind from then until now. He'd been thinking about it. He couldn't argue with her, and she seemed lighter than usual. Was all this really thanks to my foolish older brother? It made no logical sense at all, but still. Saying that, he grabbed his long coat and decided to go find Leon. I should see for myself. They said he often went to Mimir Forest, right? Night had fallen across the territory, Mimir Forest. Night fell. Rixel pushed deeper into the woods alone, muttering complaints. The forest was as gloomy as ever, and there wasn't even a decent path. What on earth was worth his trekking out here? If he needed herbs for metallurgy, he could have told John to fetch them. Suddenly, a sound caught his attention. What was that? Rixel immediately followed the noise, approaching its source. The sound came from a lone figure sitting there. It was Leon holding a roasted banana sweet potato. But in Rixel's eyes, the scene looked horrifying. What the hell are you doing? Just then Leon opened his mouth wide, about to take a huge bite. Rixel hurriedly cast a spell. You mustn't eat that. Don't eat that dirty stuff. He paused for about 2 seconds. Everything seemed to freeze. Leon slumped to the ground. He wailed in despair as his food was taken from his mouth. He knelt and cried over the ascended roasted banana sweet potato mash. Leon spun around angrily and demanded who had done this and why. But when he looked closely, he froze. Standing before him was his younger brother. Leon was surprised. Rixel, what are you doing here? Rixel was panicking over his own actions. Oh no, I only meant to spy a bit and slip away. Seeing his flustered face, Leon realized. Wait, you came to see me, could it be? To check on arrival? No, that's not it. Rixel cleared his throat a few times to explain. First, I'm sorry for abruptly using magic, but you shouldn't eat something covered in dirt like that. It's not clean at all, Leon hastily corrected him, but it's a sweet potato. Sweet potatoes are supposed to have some dirt on them. He sounded a bit curious. Sweet potato, you mean that starchy tuber? That definition left him unsure how to clarify it. True, but no one has ever defined it that way, so I don't even know how to answer. But this made Leon realize, are you serious? You've never eaten a sweet potato before. The question stunned him. His blank expression was the answer. He felt sorry. Never eaten one. You've really missed out on an enjoyable part of life. Rixel found it baffling. Really that bad. Of course, as the older brother, Leon would show his younger brother what earthly delicacies are like. For now, sit over there and rest. I'll dig up a few more nearby. Rixel hesitated but didn't refuse. All right. After walking a bit, he suddenly turned and asked, by the way, you can use fire magic, right? Can you kindle a small fire for us? Rixel didn't fully understand but still complied. That wasn't hard to do. And while Leon dug for sweet potatoes, Rixel had the fire ready. Leon returned with an armful of tubers, all set. Rixel answered softly, yes. He went and tossed the pile of sweet potatoes straight into the fire. If so, now we just wait for them to cook. Will they burn like this? It's fine, the skin's thick so the inside will cook perfectly. The air suddenly grew quiet. The two sat facing each other in silence. Rixel stared fixedly at the fire-roasting sweet potatoes, seemingly forgetting why he had come. Leon was secretly watching his contemplative face. Then he finally spoke. Sometimes doing something different from usual can clear your mind. Moving forward is good, but rest is just as important, Rixel replied. I think I understand. Just then Leon realized the sweet potatoes were done. The smell was amazing. Looks good, let's eat. Rixel held a sweet potato in his hand, staring at it as if it were a strange creature. Yet he still bit off a small piece. Immediately its sweetness delighted him. Rixel had to exclaim, it's delicious. Seeing his younger brother eating happily, Leon felt relieved. Right, it's called a banana sweet potato. The territory was relatively warm with no winter, but sometimes the weather turned chilly. This forest was especially dark and windy, making the air quite cold. This weather made him think of a snack. When it's cold like this, what would I crave? Exactly. Bunjiapang and roasted sweet potatoes, plus fish cake broth and hottiok pancakes. The perfect combo of natural sweetness and warmth. Without these, it's hard to withstand the cold. While Leon was lost in thought, Rixel kept quietly enjoying his food. Seeing him like that, Leon thought to himself, the kid sure eats enthusiastically. Well, kids that age usually eat a lot. Back at school, I used to eat all the time. Breakfast, snacks, lunch, more snacks, instant noodles. After a while, he suddenly stared in shock, because the ground was littered with sweet potato peels. Rixel realized he'd eaten that much. Leon said cheerfully, "I'm glad you like it." Rixel felt a bit embarrassed and stammered, "Well, you know. Yeah, it's a rare chance to be close like this," he said. "Eat as much as you want. You're working hard for the clan in my place. You know the patient suffers, but the caregiver also endures a lot of hardship." Rixel denied that. "I don't see it as a burden, and I never blamed you either. But to be honest, I'm a little jealous of you, because you have things I don't. It's not that I'm dissatisfied with my current position. I'll keep doing my best." He laughed and said, "All right, I get it." The kid's still a child. Leon played the big brother role, offering advice that was also comfort. "You're at the age where it's okay to be a little selfish. If you ever get bored of studying, occasionally doing whatever you like is fine." As he spoke, he stepped close to Rixel and gently patted his shoulder. "You've done very well." Those words warmed him. The pressure of succession seemed to ease considerably, and only now did he grasp Sylvia's implication, like she had said, "I'm glad I came to see you, brother." After a satisfying meal, Leon quickly returned to his room. He eagerly opened the system panel to check his balance. "Have I really saved 71,500 shillings? I can almost use the system shop to craft that medicine for Sylvia. I've worked myself to death, but it helped me level up a lot." Then he was briefly embarrassed. Too bad Mr. Solva rejected his feelings, but it's their business, there's nothing I can do. If Putruk heard this, he'd be shocked and correct him. "That's not true, you brat." Leon's mood was exuberant. "I'd also become quite close to Rixel, and now I don't have to worry about being kicked out, so I'll just relax and enjoy it." A knock sounded from outside. Leon signaled softly. Immediately, a clear female voice said, "Hello." Sylvia, now in the form of a maid, introduced herself calmly. "My name is Elvia. From today, I will serve you, young master." Leon was momentarily stunned. What is this? Why does this strange familiarity feel so odd? He thought to himself that she must have some mysterious story. No wonder Sylvia suddenly announced her retirement. So that's the reason. It's odd for a fantasy world to lack other races, yet here there's even a dwarf. Then Leon warmly stepped forward to greet her. "Thank you, Elvia." Sylvia bowed respectfully and replied, "Yes. Call me whenever you need anything." He then sincerely added, "Thank you. Because of you, my brother and I have grown much closer." Sylvia fell silent and watched him for a moment. Then she returned to her calm demeanor and asked suspiciously, "I'm sorry, young master. I don't quite understand what you mean." Leon laughed it off. "It's nothing." While packing his things, he smoothly asked, "Can we talk later?" Then, Leon eagerly stepped outside. "Today I'm going out with Rixel." Golden sunlight bathed the busy street. Rixel's eyes were full of confusion. No matter how he thought about it, this made no sense. Why? Seeing Leon approaching in a haggard state made him wonder why his stamina was still so poor when he climbs mountains every day. Leon had a history of collapsing from exhaustion while walking, 870,943 times, and falling asleep while eating from fatigue 34,963 times. Rixel tried to find the most reasonable explanation. Is this also a consequence of the mana shock? His mana is depleted. I need to ask a cleric to check him. He couldn't help but worry. The mages and the temple normally dislike each other, but at this rate he'll collapse before the coming rite of passage. Rixel carefully stepped forward to support him. "Let me slow down for you." Leon clutched his chest weakly. "Why am I so tired today?" Rixel quietly calculated. "So we must avoid being noticed by both the clan and the temple, and ensure he can safely meet a cleric. It may take time, but the most reliable way to see a cleric is through volunteer work." Rixel quickly sketched a plan in his head. "The temple's doctrine encourages volunteer work, so we can naturally approach the clerics that way." Leon steadied himself and asked Rixel, "Where are we going now?" Rixel cautioned carefully. "First, it'll attract attention if people see a young noble wandering around, so we need to buy a few disguise items first." Leon looked momentarily embarrassed. Disguise items like a clothing shop. Rixel immediately denied it, smiling. "No, a magical trinket shop." After a while, the two stopped at a small magic goods shop. Leon stepped in and curiously glanced around. He exclaimed excitedly, "I've been all over this territory, but I didn't expect a place like this to exist." Rixel strolled ahead. "Only those who know about it come here. There shouldn't be any contraband items, right?" Saying that, he looked a bit uneasy and glanced away. Probably Leon stiffened at once. "What do you mean, probably?" Leon continued inspecting the other items, but he found shelves filled with things like earrings and pens. Lots of interesting items, though they looked like children's toys. Rixel cleared his throat awkwardly and explained, I learned about this place back at the academy. They may look like that, but many items have powerful effects. Leon's face lit up with understanding. I see. Just then the shop owner came out to greet them warmly. Of course, he enthusiastically advertised his wares. My shop has everything except hair growth tonic. My nasal remedies and automatic shampoo trinkets are flying off the shelves. Rixel went straight to the point. We're looking for some disguise items. The shopkeeper happily led them deeper inside. Disguises. Of course we have them, they're right over there, follow me. He then pointed at a neat pile of gleaming trinkets. Everything here is for disguises, from delicate bracelets for parties to height-increasing insoles. He introduced them eagerly. The inexpensive items that alter appearance a bit are over this way. Then he pulled aside another curtain. The premium items that can even change hair color are over here. They work very well, but they're much pricier. Rixel's and Leon's gazes quickly fixed on one shiny item. This is a perfect disguise trinket that changes you from head to toe. Guaranteed your parents wouldn't recognize you after using it. The two brothers exchanged a look, apparently sharing the same thought. Then the door closed and the owner's cheerful farewell rang out. Come again. Rixel asked carefully, how do you feel about it? Is it okay? Leon laughed with interest and replied, this place is fascinating. We'll come back to consider it more closely later. Saying that, he looked at the heavy bag in his hand. Maybe because we bought something expensive, they included some extra items, Rixel guessed casually. It's nothing special. They're not known for giving gifts. Leon glanced down and suddenly noticed something. It was an item repair kit that can fix equipment below master rank. Leon was secretly amazed. They'd given him something more valuable than the hairpin, maybe because it's old. Rixel noticed his reaction and calmly said, I don't use this stuff, you take it all. Leon asked in disbelief, such a good item? Really? Rixel nodded to confirm, it's fine. Leon eagerly handed him a hairpin. Great, now let's disguise ourselves. Rixel looked around cautiously. This alley seems quiet, let's go in there. Shortly after, their golden hair quickly changed color, and their eyes both turned a jade green. Leon looked at his appearance and immediately exclaimed, Amazing, this disguise is perfect. Rixel strode out comfortably. With this, we can move around without worry. Let's go now, Leon replied excitedly. Let's go. After a while, Leon's voice rang out over the rushing water. Rixel, you said we're volunteering, so why are we at a flour mill? He looked at the scene in front of him in bewilderment. We're going to volunteer, right? Rixel calmly explained, yes, flour is on the donation list, so we need to stop by and check it out. He stepped in and added, and interestingly, this mill also bakes bread to sell. I've heard the bread made from freshly milled flour here is special. Leon's eyes widened. Really? I thought mills only ground grain or pressed oil. Rixel felt a pang of anxiety inwardly. Of course, I have another reason for coming here. A man named Nicholas immediately came out to greet them. Welcome, I've been waiting for you. Rixel had planned this. The reason was to meet this man. He is one of the few devout followers in the Asturia territory, known for donating, generous, and well-connected. If I build a relationship with him, I can get access to the temple and maybe even meet a cleric. Rixel quickly asked if the order was finished, and Nicholas cheerfully replied, of course it's done. He spun around excitedly and pointed to the sacks inside. It's been a long time since I've milled such high-quality wheat, I'm overjoyed. The wheat isn't infested at all, but Nicholas suddenly grew curious. Why do you need so much flour? Rixel explained the situation. I've seen some hungry children and felt sorry for them, so I decided to donate a little. Nicholas grew even more excited. A wonderful decision. Have you chosen where to donate? Rixel seized the opportunity to ask, I'm still thinking, do you have any suggestions? Nicholas stroked his chin in thought. Rixel prayed inwardly, please say the temple, please say the temple. Then Nicholas proposed, would you be interested in donating to the orphanage run by the temple? Rixel was ecstatic inside. Perfect. Outwardly he remained calm. The temple, you say? Rixel asked calmly, how many children are there? Nicholas estimated not too many, maybe about 30. Rixel showed surprise. I thought the temple's facilities would be better. Nicholas explained softly, they used to be, but times are hard now. I heard the temple's subsidies have been reduced. Aware this might be sensitive, he grew a little awkward. This is the Asturia territory where magic is paramount, so they have difficulty raising donations. And with the standing of the noble magic families, they probably feel awkward supporting an orphanage run by the temple. As he spoke, Nicholas's eyes discreetly appraised the people before him. He considered quietly. Looking at this large flower order and the way the young man carried himself, he seems to come from a very distinguished family. I hope this connection will help improve the orphanage's situation. Leon suddenly interrupted. Wait, you said you bake bread here too, right? Even if we donate the flour, it will take time for them to make anything from it. He rolled up his sleeves enthusiastically and suggested, so why don't we bake a few loaves for the children right now? Leon continued to persuade him. Even with flour, the kids probably lack other ingredients. And if we do this now, the children will surely love fresh hot bread, right? Nicholas had no hesitation and agreed cheerfully. Sure, of course. My shop is famous for making the best bread in the region. Rixel suddenly realized he'd been so focused on his own goal that he hadn't considered the orphanage's situation, and had missed these small but important details. Then he looked at Leon with admiration. Big brother is always so thoughtful. Ruxel quickly agreed. That idea is really great. Knuckles immediately perked up. Wonderful. The three of them went inside to get ready. Then let's start baking right away. On the table there was whole wheat flour and premium olive. Leon examined them thoughtfully. Let's see, we have plenty of flour and olive oil. This will make the flavor absolutely excellent. Nicholas began to introduce. The bread we're making today is basic barley bread, very popular. It's simple to make but incredibly fragrant and kids love it. With that he rolled up his sleeves and said, I'll make a small sample loaf first. Nicholas started measuring out the ingredients, mixing a measured amount of flour with salt and yeast, and milk in proper proportions to make the dough. Then place the dough into an olive oil, greased pan to proof. He explained as he deftly kneaded. Then gently press the risen dough to release the air bubbles, finally folding in some crushed sunflower seeds, and a smooth ball of dough quickly formed, and it was done. Rixel followed the instructions and soon produced several himself, thinking silently that it was easy. Compared to magic, this was unbelievably simple. Then Rixel curiously glanced at Leon beside him. Are you done? Nicholas also asked with interest. Young master, not finished yet. Leon was still fiddling with his dough. I think I need a bit more time, I can feel it. Nicholas, at a loss for words, replied, all right, I understand, I'll bake your and my portions first. The soft dough portions were quickly placed into the oven. A short while later, Nicholas eagerly opened the oven. Let's see how they turned out. They froze when they saw a small charred lump inside. Nicholas flustered as he explained and comforted them. Oh dear, if you add too much flour the bread will burn like this, but since it's your first time we won't blame the young master. Actually, this is still not bad. The aroma of bread soon wafted out. Nicholas immediately glanced at the oven behind him. It seems the senior young master's bread is done too. He quickly pulled out the baking tray. Let me see. Then a dazzling radiance suddenly flashed, making all three shield their eyes. Wait, this is a whole wheat loaf made by Leon of exceptional quality. His cooking proficiency had also leveled up to level 2. Nicholas stared in disbelief at the perfect, crispy loaves. How could you bake bread of this quality? He marveled and asked how Leon had done it. Leon scratched his head sheepishly. I didn't do anything special. Then he said softly, this bread is for the children. Even if we can't give them this every day, at least today I want them to have plenty of good bread. Leon's sincere words surprised Nicholas again. And if the loaves look nice, the kids will be even more delighted, so I scored a few slashes on the loaves. Unexpectedly, the result was better than I hoped. The image of the two brothers in his eyes changed instantly. At first, I thought they were wealthy nobles using charity as a stunt to experience commoner life, but I was completely wrong. Rixel showed his amazement. Big brother, you really have a talent for this. Leon laughed heartily. Thanks. Nicholas continued his thought. These two young masters bake for the children with all their hearts, so then. He suddenly requested, young masters, would you mind staying to bake here a little longer? There's a place I must go right now. Rixel flinched and quickly agreed. Certainly, you must have your own business. We kept you here too long. Nicholas replied comfortably, it's fine. Saying that, he hurriedly turned and dashed off. I'll be back as soon as I can. Leon felt uneasy watching Nicholas rush off. He seems very busy. Did we burden him by asking him to teach us to bake? Rixel calmly reassured him. It's fine, he'll be back soon, so let's carry on baking. Then he quickly pulled himself together. I'll do my best so I don't fall behind you. Leon laughed excitedly. Then I can't lose either. The two of them returned to the fragrant loaves. The apprentice baker achievement progress steadily rose. Under Leon's patient guidance, Rixel also began producing delicious batches of bread. Before long, Nicholas's voice rang out. I'm back, young masters. Leon turned and stared in surprise. You're back, but there were many people behind Nicholas now. Leon was a bit flustered. You didn't come alone, a friendly woman explained. Nicholas isn't usually like this, but he told us he was deeply moved by the compassion of the two young masters, so we came to lend a hand. Rhea unexpectedly arrived to help as well. Yes, my husband wanted to come for the children too, but he was busy at the smithy, so I came instead. Oh my, Leon quickly put a finger to his lips to hush her. Rhea awkwardly stopped and said, "Oh, never mind." Then she suddenly set down a large chest of supplies. Everyone quickly pulled out all kinds of ingredients. There was even a girl who made the crowd gape. With a single move, she dropped 4 enormous sacks of goods, so heavily the ground trembled. People gasped in amazement. "What's that? Look at her biceps, it's every farmer's dream." "Excuse me, miss, they say you once fought a bear barehanded." Rixel watched this scene, energized. "I didn't expect them to donate so many necessities." Everything went so smoothly, Leon said gratefully. "Yes, the people of our territory are truly kind." Seeing everyone's bright smiles, Rixel privately reflected. "Is this the result of putting your whole heart into the smallest deeds? I only thought about approaching Nicholas to meet the cleric. Thinking back, I feel ashamed." Thinking that, he smiled at Lun and vowed, "Once Big Brother regains his health, I'm sure he'll accomplish great things." A few hours later, at the orphanage run by the temple in the Asteria territory, the donated goods were delivered very quickly. "Thank you so much." The director was so overwhelmed with joy he began to cry. "I don't know how to repay the kindness of you noble young masters," Leon replied comfortably. "Please don't be formal, we're just happy to help." A few curious children ran over. "What's this? It smells so good, oh my kids." The director awkwardly reminded them to greet first, and soon the small yard was full of the children's laughter. "Look, there's so much stuff, let me see. There's even clothes, they're so pretty." The director spoke softly. "Young masters, if it's not a bother, could you hand out the bread yourselves? Meanwhile, I'll move these donated items inside." Rixel eagerly agreed, of course, we'd be glad to. They quickly took out baskets of bread. "Okay, kids, come get your bread." The children excitedly ran up to take them. They looked delicious. "Thank you." At that moment, Leon's gaze happened to fall on a small corner. Under a shady tree, a boy was standing alone, withdrawn. Noticing Leon's look, the boy immediately turned and ran off elsewhere. Leon asked in puzzlement, "Director, who was that boy who just ran off?" The director quickly followed his pointing finger and answered, "That child is Peter." She explained gently, "I apologize if the boy seems rude. Children are still young and don't always know how to accept kindness. Please don't mind Peter, young master." Leon watched the small fleeing figure in silence. Peter huffed. Seeing the other kids had all received bread, Leon said cheerfully, "It looks like we've handed out bread to most of them already." The director, seeing him walk by, asked, "Hey, where are you going, young master?" Leon smiled, holding the basket of bread. "Peter hasn't had any yet." At that moment, Peter was sitting alone in a corner with his knees drawn up. He recalled what people had told him about the boy. Peter had been returned from adoption 3 times because of his shyness, and since then he refused all food and donations like these. Leon watched the boy thoughtfully, assessing him silently. The boy looked about the same age as the Mudu children. He looked at Peter's skinny arms and sighed. The boy was really thin. Leon gently called his name, making the boy start. "Peter." When Peter didn't respond, he sat down and spoke softly. "Peter, I brought something really tasty. Would you like to try a little? The others have finished theirs, only your portion is left." Peter frowned, completely ignoring the noisy adults nearby. Leon flashed a sparkling look and held out a roll sweetly to tempt him. At this hour, eating this would be heavenly. The bread was made from freshly milled flour, chewy and tasty, fragrant and rich, and still warm. No matter how stubborn he was, Peter's stomach betrayed him. Seeing the boy turn bright red with embarrassment and lie back, Leon inwardly cheered. So he really was hungry. Leon exhaled and smiled slightly. If the boy had only been acting spoiled, he'd have kept teasing, but since he was this exhausted yet still refusing, he decided the boy just needed a little time. It wasn't until the sky had started to turn golden. The others cheerfully said their goodbyes. "I'll go inside first. Thank you all for your hard work today." Only then did Peter slowly open his eyes. "I fell asleep." "Well, that's fine too. Everyone's probably gone home by now." The kid finally sat up and muttered bitterly, "What hypocrites. They only want to satisfy their own self-righteousness when doing charity. Once they've achieved their goal, they never come back. Why bother us with those volunteer shows?" Before he finished, Leon, who had been sitting there the whole time, narrowed his eyes and asked, "You're awake?" Startled, Peter jumped and shouted, suspicious of this odd adult. "What? Why are you still here? Why haven't you gone home?" Leon smiled slightly and replied, "You slept so well I couldn't bear to wake you." Before the boy could recover, he held the roll up in front of him. "Aren't you hungry? I'm starving, want a bite?" Peter scowled stubbornly and turned his face away. "Are you sure?" Leon pulled the bread back and said, "Fine then, if that's the case." No sooner had he finished than he ripped the roll in half. To Peter's horrified eyes, Leon decisively raised one half and began to eat it. "What are you doing?" Leon feigned reluctance. "I'm eating the bread, of course. Since you said you didn't want it, it would be wasteful to throw it away, so I have to take care of it." Having said that, he continued chewing. leaving Peter gaping awkwardly. Wait. The boy quickly snatched the half from Leon's hand and said loudly, "Fine. I can eat it, okay." Holding the piece, Peter didn't hesitate to take a big bite. As soon as he swallowed, the boy's eyes lit up. "It tastes amazing." Watching Peter eat with puffed cheeks, Leon smiled softly. When the half was gone, Leon took another roll and offered it here. He nodded cheerfully and said, "Actually, this was mine, but I'll give it to you." The fragrant roll before Peter felt strangely unfamiliar to him. Oddly so. There were clearly no special ingredients, just an ordinary piece of bread. Peter stood stunned, puzzled. So why does it taste this good? The boy pressed his lips in frustration. Things like this are usually just for show. Memories of being returned to the orphanage flooded back like a reel. People are like that. Those who once treated you kindly end up abandoning you here. Using the excuse that you're not their biological child, they discard you once more. Thinking that made Peter ache inside. He pressed his lips tighter. Between bites he said coldly, "Liars, adults are all liars." Before the boy could finish, Leon cut him off. "Peter, do you know?" Noticing the boy's eyes on him, he continued, "When adults are upset, they often skip meals. They don't realize it only makes them feel worse and they'll regret it later, but even though you're sad, you still eat well and don't skip meals." An afternoon breeze lifted a few strands of Leon's hair as his face brightened. When he made these rolls today, he had quietly hoped someone would enjoy them. So he's glad you like it. Peter froze, his eyes full of countless emotions. Something seemed to brighten within him. Moved for less than 5 seconds, Leon squinted teasingly. "Hey, are you crying?" The boy flushed and denied it embarrassedly. "I'm not crying, it's just that the bread is so good." He pretended to ask, "Really?" The boy grit his teeth and looked away. "Yes." Peter hesitated for a moment. The boy said shyly, "Thank you." Hearing that, Leon gave a gentle smile. He held out his pinky toward Peter and said, "Next time I'll make more for you. Now, pinky promise." Peter stammered, "A promise?" Leon added, "I'll tell you, this eldest young master never breaks a promise." His gaze reflected reliability. "Remember that." The boy stared into that look, dumbstruck. Peter's finger finally rose. "Next time I'll eat 2. Hearing that, Leon ruffled the mischievous kid's hair and said, "Why only 2? You can eat 3. Judging by your appetite today, next time I'll have to bake a ton." Peter muttered resentfully, "You jerk." Watching this scene from a distance, the director couldn't help exclaiming, "Oh my." She looked at Peter's radiant face and thought, "It's been so long since I saw that child smile. If only we'd shown sincere care before, the kids would have opened up to us earlier." The director heard Leon cheerfully say from afar, "Now let's go to the other children," and Peter squinted in reply, "Yes." That warm figure made the director feel a pang of shame. "I've been neglecting the children for so long under the excuse of being too busy. Someone as sincere as him truly deserves God's blessing." After a while, the director politely bade the remaining guests farewell. "Please come again. Thank you everyone, of course, see you. Excuse me, young masters, if you don't mind." Just as Leon and Rixel were about to leave, the director suddenly called them back. "Could you stay at the orphanage a little longer? We can't let you leave after doing such a wonderful thing without more." The director smiled awkwardly and said, "I just checked. Turns out the temple people will come today to pray for the children, so." To the 2 men, surprised, she continued, "Would you accept a blessing from the priest before you go?" Rixel politely placed a hand over his heart, inwardly relieved. Success, the director was so thoughtful. Refusing would be rude, we'd be honored to accept. The director gestured to lead the way. "Please follow this path then." The sound of horse-drawn carriages grew louder. "The priest will be here shortly." The next day, Rixel sat alone in the quiet parlor. He recalled the earlier conversation. "Brother, could you postpone meeting the priest this time? He's from the temple and I'm worried he might harm you." Leon readily agreed, "Fine." Rixel was surprised Leon agreed immediately. Leon rose to explain, "Actually, I just remembered I have something to attend to at the manor." Rixel inwardly marveled, "Just that?" Leon smiled brightly outwardly but was inwardly overjoyed. "So don't worry for me. Go handle your matters. It's time for my baking lesson. I'll go ahead." Back in the present, Rixel exhaled, "This is fine. The thing my brother needs is a prayer with divine power. It would be troublesome if that priest bore ill will toward our family, so I need to meet him first to gauge him." Just then a deep voice spoke as the door opened. "It's an honor to meet you." The man clasped his hands. His lips curved slightly and his golden eyes were sharp. "May the grace of the Lord be with the anonymous benefactor here. I am Licht, a servant of the Lord." Rixel asked suspiciously about the anonymous benefactor. Licht sat calmly. "I've heard from the orphanage director. You're keeping your donor identity secret." "Yes, that's right." He silently assessed the suspicious man. He was younger than he expected. Young priests usually stay in the temple, yet this one traveled out to offer blessings. He must not be an ordinary figure. Licht politely expressed his thanks. Thanks to your noble gesture, the temple has received great help. On behalf of all the priests, I sincerely thank you, Ruxel replied courteously. It's nothing. The success was thanks to everyone's joint effort, but the one who really poured his heart into this was my brother. Even making bread for the kids was his idea. Hearing that, he looked up in puzzlement. Your brother? Licht asked, as if remembering. Was he the one who returned home early for health reasons? Rixel nodded softly, yes. He fiddled with his fingers as he recounted. My brother has been extremely frail since childhood. Even now, he is still battling a severe illness. Rixel looked up and hesitated. Honestly, I didn't come here purely out of goodwill or a desire to volunteer. I deliberately arranged this so you could examine my brother. Licht narrowed his eyes and smiled. Please calm yourself, benefactor. It's tragic that such an upright man must suffer from illness. However, I only came secretly to avoid attention from the temple. He watched Licht push up his glasses and thought, is he refusing me? I can't read his expression at all. But then he suddenly said, in 3 days. The priest folded his hands at his chest and smirked. Exactly at this time, 3 days from now. Could you bring your brother here again? Rixel rushed back to the manor and shouted, Brother, oh my God. He glared at the seated man in annoyance. Why are you still awake at this hour? With your health like this, how can you keep staying up late? Leon awkwardly flopped down to avoid it. It's just that I can't sleep. Leon, a little embarrassed, deflected. What's going on? Why did you rush into the room like that? The boy cheerfully delivered the news. The priest agreed to examine you. Upon hearing this, he sat up. How is my body? Rixel nodded and explained, yes, he said he wants to help because he himself has received great grace from you. Leon thought to himself, but I'm only a bit weak right now. It's not really an illness. Since my last mana awakening, the mana shock disappeared completely, and I never had a chronic disease to begin with. He recalled things he'd done recently. He'd been running around so much his stamina had actually improved. Anyway, it's not a bad offer, should I accept? Lun decisively agreed, all right, I'll go. Ruxel perked up really. He drooped his eyelids slightly, but the priest requested a meeting at dawn. A bit odd, Leon asked suspiciously, at dawn? When exactly? Rixel answered, in 3 days. 3 days later, at the orphanage affiliated with the temple, Leon was now disguised and glanced at the flask on the table. Holy water of premium quality, he assessed inwardly. So young and already able to produce this, impressive. Rixel, who had been standing behind him without him noticing, called out, Brother. Leon hurriedly replied, I'm here. He placed a hand over his heart and bowed slightly, honored to meet you, priest. Licht also folded his hands, may the Lord's grace be with you both. I am honored to meet such benefactors. First, why don't we sit down and talk for a bit? Once the three were seated, Leon voiced his curiosity. By the way, priest, I'm rather curious about something. Licht replied comfortably, feel free to ask. He asked, if you don't mind, could you tell me why you arranged the meeting at dawn? He hesitated a little this. Actually, I've recently dreamed about the two of you. Leon and Rixel were astonished. A dream. Licht raised a hand and smiled faintly in explanation. Yes. Sometimes priests with outstanding divine power receive revelations from the Lord through dreams. It's called a prophetic dream. Rixel, cautious, probed. May I be so bold as to ask what that dream was like? He smiled softly, nothing too grand. The children were sleeping peacefully in a meadow and the two of you were standing right beside them. Your appearances were slightly different from now, but it was definitely you. After waking, that dream left me with an incredibly warm feeling, which is why I wanted to meet you both in person. Licht added silently, and I also needed to confirm something. He observed the two before him. I want to see what the people who appeared in my dream are really like. Licht cast a sharp glance at Rixel. First, the younger brother is a mage. He speaks politely and courteously and looks very young enough to need this disguise. He must belong to an influential clan. In this land, he's likely from the Asteria clan. Is his goal truly to cure his brother? It would be troublesome if mages were trying to steal information from the temple. I'll know once I examine the brother. Licht asked Rixel, now as we agreed, may I begin the treatment? Rixel nodded slightly and stood, all right, I'll step outside for a bit. I'll rely on you. After Rixel left the room, Licht approached Leon. I'll begin now. Leon replied politely, thank you. Moments later, a stream of blue light radiated from Licht's hands. It converged gradually on Leon. Sensing the situation was unusual, Licht raised an eyebrow in puzzlement. He looked at Leon in disbelief. The blessing was cast perfectly, so why was the boy's body showing no change? My divine power isn't that weak. Thinking so, he poured in more divine power. Where did I go wrong? Even after casting it a second time, Licht was stunned by Leon's condition. His face darkened, mouth agape. Leon turned to him cheerfully and gently said, I really feel much better. He squeezed the tight spot on his shoulder, then continued very pleased, priest, I think receiving this blessing is more than enough. Licked startled and stammered no. The confident look he started with was now tinged with worry. There are only 3 reasons a body wouldn't respond to a great priest's blessing. First, a mage of a rank higher than the priest is blocking the treatment. Second, they're already completely healthy and no longer need the blessing. And finally, they're born with a short life span. Leon nodded slightly and smiled gratefully. Thanks to you I feel extremely refreshed. Licht suddenly changed tone and spoke gently, brother. If you ever need my help in the future. He stepped closer and clasped Leon's hands tightly, then lifted them with compassion. Please come to the temple and seek me when the physical pain becomes unbearable and you cannot sleep. A flame of zeal rose in his heart. I will help you at all costs, do you understand me? Leon, still clueless, could only say yes. He opened the door and didn't forget to say a few parting words. Thank you very much for your kindness, priest. It's nothing, take care, hope we meet again. Watching Lun's retreating back, Luck drew back his smile. He reverently offered a prayer. May the Lord's grace accompany you for the rest of your life. Leon scratched his head and muttered, why do I have this uneasy feeling? Cut to the Asteria Manor. The carriage had brought the 2 brothers home. Rixel said cheerfully, brother, I'm so glad you look much better. The dawn trip was truly meaningful. Leon agreed, I think so too. He rubbed his shoulder and thought happily. Since I'm normally very healthy, I couldn't feel the divine power's effect clearly, but it truly is a very useful energy. 1 casting should have been enough, yet he kept repeating it. Thanks to that, my shoulder, sore from staying up all night baking, is completely fine now, and the muscle ache is gone too. But he looked at his younger brother with concern. Rixel, you don't look well. Are you tired? The dark circles under your eyes are deep. Rixel narrowed his eyes and smiled to reassure him, I'm fine. He turned to leave. I must be off now. I have mana training this morning. Leon startled and said, what? He sighed and muttered, you stayed up all night again, didn't you? If you keep pushing yourself like this, sooner or later your body will protest. From behind, Sylvia appeared and said, the heir's training schedule is always harsh, but lately he seems even busier than usual. Leon rubbed his chin thoughtfully, that's true. I'm worried the boy will harm his health. She stepped closer and said politely, if you're so concerned, why not speak with the family head? You will soon meet him to discuss the coming-of-age ceremony. Mention it then. Besides, the family head has had much on his mind lately. He perked up at the idea and devised a plan. Sulva smiled faintly. Perhaps I should bring him some sweets. Shortly after, Leon and Sylvia were in the kitchen. He adeptly took the rolling pin and flattened the dough beneath. Leon cheerfully turned to her. Good idea, thanks, Sylvia. Cookies aren't too heavy and are moderately sweet. I wonder if grandfather even likes sweets. Her expression unchanged, she corrected his form of address. I'm Elvia. Who's Sylvia? The family head isn't particularly fond of sweets, but he will eat anything you make, young master, so you needn't worry. He felt a little embarrassed and said, even so, if he'll eat them, I want him to truly enjoy them. Suddenly, Leon seemed to remember something and let out an ah. Sylvia paused slightly, guessing, don't tell me. Seeing Leon reach for a sweet potato on the table, she asked, are you going to use that? Leon picked it up and replied, yes. She watched him peel the potato and hesitantly remarked, that's an odd combination. He replied cheerfully, it's the perfect chance for him to try it and see how it tastes. Leon sliced the sweet potato into thin pieces. Instead of using sugar, I'll finally chop some banana sweet potato and add it to the batter. With the potato's mild natural sweetness, grandfather will surely enjoy it easily, right? After preparing the dough, he reached for the cookie cutter next like this. Each cookie was pressed into the cutter in various cute shapes. They looked adorable. Next time I need to ask Mudu to make some new cookie cutters. Leon placed them in the oven and said happily, next step. Now we just arrange these shaped cookies into the oven and bake them. Looking at the glossy, fragrant cookies, he said excitedly, they're done. Special banana sweet potato cookies. Leon glanced at the info panel that just appeared. Why do foods have effects identical to a potion like this? Sylvia, surprised, praised him. You're truly amazing. I only shared the dough recipe, so you basically made all of this yourself. She frowned slightly and said, the final step of cooking is tasting. Try one. He took one as well and said, I'll taste it. Leon picked up a just-baked cookie and tasted it. As soon as he sensed its sweetness, he beamed with delight. I think this is even better than chocolate chip cookies from my past life. Cooking proficiency increased, recipe saved. Sylvia cheerfully advised, sweets relieve fatigue, but eating too many isn't good for health. Since these cookies aren't overly sweet, the family head will likely enjoy them. He turned and sincerely said, thank you for your help, Elvia. You've been very helpful. She shook her head with a faint smile. I only did my duty. Now let's pack the cookies. Leon declined as if remembering something. I'll handle the packing myself. You can go rest now. Sylvia, a bit surprised, said, oh. He leaned in and whispered, I still have one more thing to do. Once Ulva left, he quickly accessed the system and muttered, I can't open the storage while Ulva is right there. Now my cooking level is already 3. I've unlocked many recipes and have enough ingredients. He gleefully rubbed his shoulder. Next is the drink. The system panel appeared, grants a resonance effect when paired with a beverage. Leon selected ingredients from storage. Next, I'll make a training support drink. The red drink requires a potion, fruit-scented oil, and flower root. He was sure both Grandfather and Rixel would like this. Staring at the ingredient list, Leon felt a bit puzzled. The ingredients looked familiar. Where have I seen them? Oh well, whatever. They pair perfectly with the cookies, so I'll just focus on judging the quality. After carefully choosing, Leon set the fruit plate on the table. Great, extremely fresh ingredients. Fresh oranges and lemons. Leon braced his hands on the table, thrilled. Let's begin. First, wash the fruit and slice it neatly. Then simmer the primary life-restoring potions over low heat. When the oranges and lemons have slightly softened, add the flower root and wait for the fruit's fresh flavors to meld completely. When he smelled the aroma, strain the steaming drink through a sieve. Finally, add a drop of sea rosemary scented oil. A bottle of drink was finished. The alchemist's training support beverage. Seeing its effects, Leon exclaimed, no wonder it feels familiar. This really reminds me of Vin's show. Tasting the drink himself, he smiled broadly. The flavor was excellent. Now let's pair this freshly made drink with the cookies. The tray now held both cookies and the drink, recognized by the system as a special meal set by Leon. Crafting successful, achievement unlocked, you received shilling. Leon happily accepted the reward. This should be more than enough. He removed his apron and set it on the table. Leon carried the tray and set off. Now I'll go see Grandfather. Outside Patrick's study door, Leon called into the room, Grandfather, are you busy? When Leon opened the door and entered with the tray, Patrick grumbled, what are you bringing in here? Even carrying things, have the servants handed that task to you? I'll punish them at once. Before he could finish, Leon smiled and cut him off. It's not like that. I brought them myself because I wanted to hand them to you personally. He set the tray on the table and cheerfully introduced. This is a drink I made using the potion I crafted before, and I baked some cookies because I thought they'd go well together. Patrick's tone softened noticeably. You mean you made them yourself? Leon replied, yes. He looked at Patrick confidently and said, I thought it'd be interesting to show you my progress this way. Seeing Patrick hold up a bear-shaped cookie, he urged, please try it. As soon as Patrick bit the first piece, he tasted it carefully and opened his eyes in surprise. Patrick felt the cookie melt in his mouth, the sweet, gentle aroma of sweet potatoes spreading. It brought a pleasant, abundant energy. It was completely different from a simply roasted sweet potato, a unique flavor created with perfectly balanced sweetness. The system panel chimed. Novice cooking proficiency increased. Leon felt pleased with himself. He requested cooking talent development. Someone must taste the food to earn experience reward points. Seeing the experience points spike like that, he must really like them. What a relief. After tasting, Patrick took a stern tone. All right, speak. Leon went blank for a moment. Yes, he calmly set his hand down and said, I'm not here just to give you this. Get straight to the point. Leon scratched his head bashfully. I really can't hide anything from you. He hesitated and began. It's that I heard my coming-of-age ceremony will be held soon. Could we let Rixel rest until then? Patrick, upon hearing this, asked curiously, why is that? Leon frowned slightly, worried. The whole family will attend the ceremony, right? But Rixel's current schedule seems exhausting. Could you reduce his training intensity until the ceremony? I want our whole family there with bright smiles. Patrick lightly propped his chin, pondering. Outwardly, he looked like a serious patriarch considering the matter, but inside he felt bursting pride for his grandson. What a thoughtful child, whose grandson turned out so obedient and well-raised. He observed the grandson before him, growing more pleased. Their rivalry for head of the family seemed trivial now. He had worried they were drifting apart, yet they'd built such a close brotherhood without his noticing. Another thing to be proud of. He had no reason to refuse. Very well, I'll grant your request. I'll tell him to train on his own until the ceremony. Leon cheerfully agreed. Thank you, sir. Patrick suddenly asked, is that all? You have no other requests for your coming of age? He blinked, yes. Leon smiled with narrowed eyes. Yes, I have no other requests. Patrick frowned slightly in appraisal. I wonder who he takes after. No ambition at all, even though gifts are a highlight of a coming of age. A coming of age isn't just a simple event. If it's what the ceremony host desires, one must obtain it. Even if it's a one-of-a-kind gem in the world, it's the most elegant way to display the family's wealth. He blinked in surprise. He said he didn't want anything. That means. He widened his eyes and pursed his lips, thinking, he wants me to figure it out and prepare something spectacular. Leon saw that determined look and secretly broke into a sweat. Well then, I'll take my leave. Patrick rested his chin on his hand in speculation. As Leon's back disappeared, he paced anxiously, pondering how he should proceed, how to prepare the perfect gift. Leon strode confidently down the mansion corridor. Ahead lay towering stacks of books and documents, piled messily on the table. Rixel sat with his head propped on his hand, intently reading a document amid the paper-strewn desk. He suddenly pushed the door open and burst into the study, calling loudly and startling his brother. The papers flew everywhere with a rustle, yes. Leon entered, looked around, and laughed while his brother scrambled to pick up the scattered documents. What's going on in this room? I didn't expect you to be this messy. Rixel blushed, embarrassed, covering his mouth to hide his fluster. I'm so ashamed. I never wanted you to see this, big brother. What brings you here? Lun cheerfully carried out a tray of pastries. I thought you'd crave a snack while working. I made them myself. The two brothers sat together on the elegant sofa. Rixel popped a small rabbit-shaped cookie into his mouth to enjoy. Rixel's eyes widened in surprise right after chewing the first bite. The crisp crunch sound, his stunned expression turned into praise. Oh my God, this is outstandingly good. I knew it since you made that loaf of bread. You're really skillful, big brother. Oh, come on. Leon asked with concern and advised his younger brother to take time to rest before the important ceremony. Rixel, grandfather gave you a lot to do, right? Just take it easy and rest until my coming-of-age ceremony. He smiled and gently revealed that he'd already spoken to grandfather out of concern for him. I asked his permission. You look exhausted. Rixel felt very touched and warmed by his brother's thoughtful care. I didn't expect you to worry so much about me. Thank you so much, big brother. But I'm not tired from air training or the family duties. The emotion was quickly snuffed when the eldest misunderstood the reason for his fatigue. Don't tell me it's a love letter. I shouldn't have been curious. It's not like that at all. The two brothers went from serious to laughing as Rixel hurriedly clarified the real reason. Right. At your age, it's normal to start noticing girls. It's because of your upcoming coming-of-age ceremony. Leon realized the source of his worry. So it's related to the clan ceremony. The Asteria family's coming-of-age has a ritual called the Library Maze. It's where skills are acquired, guiding people to the magic they need most. Though it's called a maze, it adjusts to the user's level so there aren't really confusing forks. If one tries to conquer it, it becomes an impenetrable labyrinth. But if one follows its guidance, it's simply a library. The secrets of how the library operates and the dark memories of the previous owner's body gradually revealed themselves. The original Leon even used it as a base before I took over this body. And they say whoever reaches the end may take a special item. Rixel probably thinks it's dangerous for him since he has no mana. Such a dutiful boy. Leon spoke to reassure him, but Rixel's half-laugh, half-cry answer left him stunned. It's fine, Rixel, that ritual is just a formality anyway. No, I'm worried about the outfit. He looked up with a blank expression, sweating as he asked the outfit. Yes, across the study, Rixel held up the document and asked, have you seen the outfit the family head prepared for your coming of age? Not yet, I haven't seen it. He decisively slammed the design onto the table. Here it is. The family head has a fatal fashion flaw. The ceremonial outfit design was revealed. A tight, sickly green suit paired with leaf green pants, a blazing red cloak and grotesquely bright red high-heeled shoes. He has zero taste. It's over, it's a disaster. Forget the ceremony, it's ruin. Both brothers broke into a sweat, faces falling in dismay. Leon immediately said this absolutely cannot be worn at the coming of age, especially with his image as an 8-ring archmage. Rixel nodded tremblingly. I totally agree. The two clutched their heads and shouted in chaotic panic. He wondered, but he usually dresses normally. Why the sudden change in taste? Rixel explained, because up until now Sylvia always stopped him. Leon was moved to learn the truth about Sylvia. She had been quietly protecting them all along. We'll find a way to stop this. Now she finally shows gratitude. I want our whole family to wear coordinated colors. Execute the plan. The kids cheered with delight. Young master, the young master. Leon, wearing a simple cloak, brightly greeted the local children. How have you been? Thorn, Leaf. He bowed and offered a colorful bag of cookies. Smiling, long time no see everyone here. Please try these. I made these cookies myself. The two children happily hugged the bag and ate. Oh my, such a precious thing. By the way, may I ask what brings the young master here? I want to ask a favor. Ria looked surprised at the unexpected request. A favor. Do you all remember the tailor who used to volunteer at the orphanage with us? Leon continued with his request to find that talented tailor from years past. Could you introduce him to me? Yes, what? The image of the talented tailor appeared vividly in his memory, his craftsmanship incredibly skillful. I caught a glimpse of his work when we did charity, and he was truly very skilled. He altered each child's clothes to fit right on the spot, then quickly stitched new garments from scraps of fabric, like a true master. Back in the present, Ria thought for a moment before answering the urgent request to find the skilled tailor. I need someone with workmanship like his. Will that be difficult? Not at all, I can arrange it. But her expression turned hesitant and uneasy. Noticing her doubt, Leon asked, is there another reason you're reluctant to introduce him? Yes, you'll understand when you get there, young master. Leon pulled his hooded cloak over his head, slung the bag, and went alone to a desolate, run-down area. He stood before an old wooden sign caked with dust and cobwebs. Is this the place? The wooden sign suddenly trembled and creaked, nearly falling and startling him, leaving him utterly bewildered. Am I at the right place? The door opened, revealing a long row of mannequins lining a dark, dilapidated corridor, creating a somewhat gloomy and eerie atmosphere. Something feels off. Why would such a talented person work in a shabby shop like this? Leon timidly called into the dark, is anyone here? Suddenly a mysterious figure appeared right behind him, making him jump. Yes. A customer. Indri lit up, spreading his arms in excitement mixed with surprise. You're a customer. The tailor froze as he recognized him. Aren't you the young master I met at the orphanage? Though your hair and eye color are different. Leon scratched his head and explained awkwardly, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth that day. I'm the eldest grandson of the Asteria clan, but I had to disguise myself for certain reasons then. Andri smiled broadly and clasped his hands respectfully. That's all right. It's understandable a young noble would have his reasons. He wondered aloud, but with your status, why come all the way here? Leon smiled faintly and replied, I'm looking for a skilled tailor. Andri was startled and nervously asked again, a skilled tailor? For someone of the Asteria clan, you don't need to bother with someone like me. Cutting through his embarrassment, the tailor remembered his manners and hurriedly led the way instead of standing here. Please come inside. Shall we sit and talk more comfortably? This way, please. He stepped inside and was drawn to rolls of colorful fabrics and prestigious awards and golden trophies displayed on the shelves. Leon marveled, blushing with excitement. Aren't those the top honors from the Empire's most famous competitions? Andri said shyly, I'm ashamed to receive someone of your standing in such a shabby place. Andri invited his guest, please sit while I brew some tea. Leon cheerfully answered, perfect timing. I brought cookies, let's enjoy them with tea. Tea was poured into cups, steam curling up. Andri apologized, I'm sorry. I wish I could offer you something finer, but my current situation is a bit. It's fine, really. Andri was very surprised by the unexpected gift. These cookies are made by me. I hope you like them. Made by the young master himself. Andri admired the little bear-shaped cookie with a sweet heart in the center and recalled the old story. After all, the bread he donated to the orphanage was said to be made by him, and that bread was astonishingly good. He decided to taste the heartfelt cookie from the young master. I wonder how this cookie will taste. Thank you, I'll try it. The moment he bit the first piece, the cookie's explosive flavor completely conquered Andri's palate. A truly explosive taste. The refined flavor experience began with a crisp snap that melted softly, giving a rustic, comforting sensation, starting crunchy and immediately dissolving in the mouth, at first like a simple country boy. But then the flavor turned intensely dramatic, seductive like a tempestuous love story, and a romantic scene played in Andri's mind. The crown prince's heart stolen at first sight by a country girl, the bright, trembling taste like the thrill of first love. The supreme sweetness immersed him, leaving him speechless. This is beyond delicious. Delicious doesn't even begin to describe it. Andri gasped in admiration. This is art. Leon calmly sat drinking tea, radiating an alluringly contrasting composure. Those opposing images matched the young master standing before him. Good. He seems to really like it. He may be seen as the clan's worthless son, but in truth he's an unsolved mystery. The white porcelain plate had a faint crack, with only a few crumbs of cookie left on it. Andri wiped his mouth with a napkin, sighing in satisfaction. This is truly wonderful, young master, thank you. Leon smiled and asked, did you like it? He clenched his hands, face shining with excitement. Absolutely, I nearly cried. This cookie has sparked inspiration in me. Andri grew serious, young master. You went to the trouble to come here and gave me such a delicacy. I'll be frank and not hide anything. Andri glanced at the display mannequins and guessed, you traveled here because you want me to make clothes for you. Yes, I can absolutely make them for you. He sat upright on the sofa, eyes sharp with confidence, declaring, I'm confident I can draft patterns, cut fabric, and sew and embroider better than anyone, however. Andri explained, if it's revealed that I designed them, the other nobles won't accept it. You could be ridiculed appearing in them publicly, surprised. Why? It's that. Andri gripped his hands, trembling on his knees, bitterness clear on his face. Because I'm the illegitimate child of a noble family, I see. Privilege really makes people look down on others easily. They say it lowers their dignity, that commoners must not touch garments. That luxury is reserved only for the nobility, is that all? Leon wondered if he really needed to flatter the nobles. When the rumors spread, even those who once sponsored me began cutting contact. Many of them never wanted to be involved with me in the first place. The two sat facing each other as Andri proposed. So if you commission me, just say an unknown newcomer made the outfit. He interrupted, wait, can I see some clothes you've made before? Andri explained the shop's current situation and the items he still had. I discarded the clothes I once sold to nobles. So now I only keep garments for commoners, that's fine. I just want to see your skill. So, Andri decisively pulled away the dusty curtain, revealing a hidden display space behind it, to the young master's astonishment. Andri confidently presented the pieces he had lovingly made for ordinary working people in the region. These are the items I sell to locals. Unbelievable. Before Leon, a series of glittering item stat boards appeared, proving the exceptional, standard-setting craftsmanship, truly top-tier garments. Bolero coats ready-made by a skilled two-star tailor. Leon looked around the tailor's shop. This is exactly who I need. He assessed the tailor's excellent workmanship. Ready-made cotton trousers by a skilled tailor, ready-made ceremonial skirts by a skilled tailor. With this fabric rated 2 stars, it means the other conditions are all precise. Leon began to hatch a grand idea as he eyed the high-grade bolts of cloth. What if someone like this were supplied with premium fabric? He made a surprising proposal that stunned Andri. Andri, I truly want to wear garments made by you at my coming-of-age ceremony. Andri anxiously warned the young master, but sir, this is a huge opportunity for me. You'll definitely lose face. I guarantee no one will dare utter a word about it. Just tell me whether you can do it or not. Leon casually held up 3 fingers and stated the deadline. 3 outfits before the coming-of-age ceremony. The pressure made Andri break out in nervous sweat. Can it be done? He encouraged confidently, I will take full responsibility, so tell me straight. Are you willing to go all out? Andri clenched his hands as his desire to prove his talents surged, creating beautiful garments from premium fabrics, showcasing his skills without worrying about anything else. What tailor could refuse such an enticing offer? Andri blushed and bravely accepted the thrilling challenge. At your command, young master, wise choice. He was eager to begin designing. What style would you like, sir? What details should I include? Leon began listing exacting requirements. I want them to look refined and neat while retaining a minimal elegance. Since the whole family will wear matching outfits, I want unity, but each person should have a distinct touch. And don't make them look too old or too childish. Refined yet elegant, the same yet different. Andri was stunned. Wait, does that mean the family head himself will wear clothes made by me? Yes, is there a problem? Are you really okay with this? He worried because the nobility despised him. Like I said, I'm a tailor the nobles hate. Does that matter to your clan? Andri explained further the supreme status of the Asteria clan. No one dares cross Asteria. They hold a rank comparable to the royal family, right? The affirmation left him speechless for a few seconds. Leon's recognition gave Andri great motivation. I, Andri, will pour all my effort into making them for you. Inspiration surged and he quickly finished the design sketches. Oh wow, a perfect design just came to me. Do you have any specific fabrics in mind? Actually, I don't know much about those, so I brought this. Leon presented the clan's treasure catalog, leaving Andri astonished. This is the fabric catalog kept by your clan. This is the Asteria clan's fabric catalog, a legendary item whispered about among tailors. He asked eagerly to open the legendary book. Just seeing it with my own eyes would satisfy me. May I open it? Of course, take your time. The sound of pages turning echoed. Andri was stunned at the sight of the gleaming pages. My goodness. The catalog contained the rarest fabrics of the continent. All top-grade textiles from across the land, including spirit silk, famed for being woven only by a handful of spirits. Legendary materials that seemed imaginary, the air's breath, created from the devotion of archmages. It was astonishing these fabrics actually existed in reality. Leon smiled and asked if Andri had chosen a material. So, did you pick one? The problem is there isn't a fabric I don't like, young master. Suddenly he paused at a page full of mystery. this is. Leon leaned closer, curious at Andrew's expression. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with that fabric? When I was at my peak, there was a fabric a certain lady loved to use. Andrew explained the strange disappearance of that fabric from the market. It was impossible to find, so it was astonishing to see it in this catalog. I never forget a fabric once I've touched it. I've always wondered what it was, but sadly there's no information about it here. Leon bent down to study the swatch closely. Let me take a look. A system info panel appeared with astonishing stats about it. The deep love of the great archmage. Could this really have been made by my grandfather? Andrew had mentioned a lady once used this fabric to make clothes. He pondered the fabric's description, which listed a great archmage. So that means, if the outfits are for the whole family, then we must use this fabric. Leon immediately made the decision on the material for the outfits. Andrew, can you sew with this fabric? Of course I can, no problem. Andrew smiled and prepared to get to work. Then let's start by taking measurements now. A new figure appeared, cutting into the two of them at work. Brother, are you handling business? I heard the news, so I'm a bit late. I was busy gathering some supplies. The younger sibling's arrival left the two in the room very surprised. Supplies? Sounds like things outside are pretty noisy. Shouts erupted outside, making them both jump. Move everything inside. Yes, sir. Andrew gaped in amazement at the grand scene in the yard. What is all this? A slew of expensive tools and equipment were quickly brought in. I heard you found a tailor you like. If it's for a once-in-a-lifetime coming-of-age ceremony. Rixel proudly introduced the clan's lavish support. This level of backing is only natural. Leon could only laugh. You've prepared too thoroughly. How is it usable? You must be used to the old tools, so I guess this pile would be. No, not at all. Andrew suddenly hesitated, then made a new decision. I'll use them. He was deeply moved by the sincere gesture. I'd be extremely grateful if you replaced all of these for me. He expressed his appreciation. Young master, thank you for patiently waiting while I finish the measurements. Andrew, full of zeal, promised to create a masterpiece. I'll pour all my ability into making a work of art. Take your time. Leon smiled and added a small request. And one more thing, I want to ask a favor. The request to learn sewing left everyone stunned. Could you teach me some sewing skills when you have free time? What? Huh? How could I dare teach you, young master? Andrew panicked and tried to dissuade him for fear of accidents. No. I mean, if it's your first time sewing, you'll get pricked by needles constantly, and sewing machines can cause sudden accidents. It's fine. Leon reassured him that he only wanted to try it for fun. I'm not planning anything difficult right away, just want to try it for fun. May I ask why? The young master's understanding moved the tailor deeply. The reason? After talking with you, I realized how skilled and passionate you are, and I also saw your meticulous aesthetic taste. It would be a shame if I couldn't fully appreciate the effort you put into making these garments, so I think I need to understand the techniques first to grasp the creator's intent. Andrew choked up at the master's words of esteem. I didn't expect you to think so deeply, each stitch and technique applied, even the way the shape is structured. Tailors embed specific intent into them. Andrew respectfully expressed his gratitude and loyalty. I'm more than willing to teach you everything I know, withholding nothing. He kindly instructed the young man before briefly leaving to prepare. First, is it okay if I take the second young master's measurements before we start? If you have questions about anything here, feel free to look around and try things out. Thank you. The peaceful scene of the wooden house at sunset bathed a corner of the sky in gold. Leon stepped into the tailor's workspace and couldn't help but marvel at the surroundings. No matter how many times I see it, it's impressive. He moved closer to the table and examined the rough fabric. A system info panel appeared evaluating the material quality. The worn cotton trousers pattern of a craftsman, the fabric quality was extremely poor, fraying badly. How could he make clothes from such low-quality material? He lifted the trousers to inspect their construction and study the tailor's cutting and sewing methods. Let's see, so it's just stitched together like this. Should I try sewing it myself? Looking at his clumsy hands, he told himself he hadn't been properly taught and didn't know the basics. So using convenient tools from the start felt wrong. He should try hand sewing first. Suddenly Leon remembered he owned a perfect trinket for this situation. Lucky me, I actually have something ideal. The craftsman's repair kit. The repair kit I got as a bonus at the magic goods shop last time. His hands began moving swiftly, concentrating fully to finish the piece. If not used now, then when? Leon was very surprised when he saw the needle. Has its appearance changed? He couldn't help but be excited by this special magical item. It would transform to look brand new when he used it. Magical items are really fascinating. It's even threading the needle automatically. Sitting at the work table, Leon eagerly set to the task. Let's see how it goes. The brilliant late afternoon sun cast light on his focused figure as he sewed. He was surprised at how engrossing sewing was. Why is this so captivating? The more he sewed, the calmer and more focused his mind became. He thought he'd get bored doing such meticulous work, but it actually soothed him. His stitches grew more even, and his speed began to pick up. A magical guideline appeared to help him finish easily, and he could even see a clear guideline. Is this thanks to the item's power? Much easier than I thought. The worn cotton trouser pattern. Leon happily inspected his impressive first result. It doesn't look bad at all. A sudden sound from behind made him jump and turn. You're done? Sorry, I should have called out first. Andrew was stunned by the young master's natural talent. It's nothing, I didn't want to interrupt since you were so focused, starting the stitching from this side, right? For a first-timer, this skill is. He was surprised and impressed examining the trousers. It's a bit uneven, but truly impressive. Andrew suddenly remembered a sewing technique he'd forgotten. My goodness, how strange. This is exactly what I'd long neglected. He enthusiastically set to work, sweating profusely. Hand stitching is the core foundation of bespoke fine suits, and he'd been so focused on ready-made garments that he'd nearly forgotten this. Andrew lost himself in creative work, not noticing his surroundings. Right, I'll emphasize this area to make the outfit more elegant, and raise this part to create a stronger focal point. Securing that spot firmly would be ideal. Is the old man immersed in his own world again? The two young men decided to let the tailor continue working and go home first. Should we head back now? Let's do that. After all, today, Rixel said thoughtfully, the whole family also has a dinner appointment with the host. The butler entered the workroom, bowed respectfully, and reported, Sirs, the young masters have arrived. Shall we go down to the dining room? Setting down his brush, Patrick sighed softly after a day's work. Very well. The two strode down the long corridor, beneath the chandelier light. The butler spoke first to break the silence. It's rare for all three generations to dine together, that's true. There should be times like this now and then. His expression turned grave when mentioning weighty matters. I'm not eager to toil myself to exhaustion. I do this because it's the best way to protect them. If I shoulder responsibilities for your highness, of course I'm going to be tired. Patrick's eyes were sad as he looked out the window. Those damned royals. The war with the demon tribes ended 50 years ago, yet they still drain the old man's strength. The butler hurried to reassure him when he saw his master saddened. How much longer do I have to live? I just want to spend the rest of my days with my grandchildren. Please don't say that, sir. An 8th rank mage has a lifespan comparable to the elfkin, doesn't he? Let it be so. He continued on, reaffirming his supreme duty. It's rare for our main branch to gather in full. As head of the household, I cannot be absent. You are absolutely right, sir. The large dining room doors opened as the servants cried out in unison with respect. The head of the household has arrived. Maybe it's because I'm old, or because that flattering grandson softens my heart. The two brothers looked up at the same time. Now I only want to live out my remaining days in peace with the treasures my child left behind. But to do that, we must absolutely prevent anyone from discovering that child's potential. Leon smiled. Hello, sir. He wondered at the extravagance of the family meal. It's just a family dinner. Does it need to be so showy? Ruxul explained why the meal was special. It's rare for our family to be complete, so I asked the head chef to make some special dishes. I see. He recalled lonely meals of the past. Back then I often skipped meals or only ate bland diet food for patients, while you always ate at the royal court. Leon realized the loneliness his younger brother endured. So Rixel must have eaten alone. He looked at Rixel with a thoughtful expression. He must be very lonely. Leon decided the family needed more reunions. That's right, we must have more days like this. He felt pained for his brother's loneliness. Little brother, I knew it. He must have been terribly lonely. It must have been hard to endure everything alone. He resolved to change that with gatherings. From now on, for him, I should tell grandfather. No, I'll suggest the head of household arrange more family gatherings. Leon smiled happily. Rixel, you won't have to eat alone from now on. Before the meal, the butler carefully helped Patrick into his chair. Everyone responded in unison to his invitation. Let us dine. Yes, the clinking of cutlery tore through the dining room's silence. Putting aside the earlier quiet, Patrick asked about his grandson's work progress. Rixel, how is the task I assigned you coming along? Yes, everything is being handled perfectly, sir. Although he answered smoothly, Rixel couldn't hide his tension. Rixel's cold gaze, he thought to himself. After all, this is his brother's coming-of-age ceremony, delayed 3 years before it could be held. Shouldn't grandfather ask how he feels, or at least what gifts he'd like? This atmosphere is certainly not what he expected. I must take the initiative to start a conversation. Grandfather, Leon summoned his courage to ask, did you used to weave fabric for mother when you were younger? After hearing the question, Patrick didn't answer immediately but slowly took a sip of wine. I don't understand what you're saying. Leon tactfully watched his expression. I knew it. Mentioning mother always makes you uncomfortable. He began the story gently while eating. Today I met a tailor, and during our conversation I happened to see a very special piece of fabric belonging to our family. He fixed a serious look toward his younger brother for agreement. Rixel, you remember too, the shimmering fabric among the things you brought back. Yes, I remember. Memories of Andri surged back. The tailor told me a story from his youth about a young lady who loved a certain special fabric. Leon continued with compelling reasoning. He said our family's fabric was identical to the material that young lady used to bring, since he hasn't found that fabric anywhere else but it's present in the Asteria mansion. I wondered if that young lady might be mother, so I asked. Patrick fell into deep thought at his grandson's unexpected question. I see. The subject of mother. The dining room atmosphere suddenly grew unbearably heavy and gloomy. Perhaps this was the thing our family most wanted to avoid. A close-up of the warm soup on the family's lavish table. But we can't keep burying and ignoring it forever. Being able to speak freely about the deceased may be the only way we truly comfort and heal one another. He smiled confidently as he hatched a reconciliation plan. What we need now is a breakthrough to reconnect. So I'll use these matching outfits as an excuse to mend relationships and help everyone open up. Patrick finally voiced his agreement with his grandson's idea. Leon, just as you said, the unexpected truth from his own mouth froze the dining room air. That fabric was indeed woven by my own hands. The two brothers blinked in surprise and asked again, You wove it yourself? May I ask why, sir? Holding his wineglass, he gave it a gentle shake as if recalling a distant memory. There's no grand reason. A father's worry for his only daughter was natural. The past returned, where each yarn was chosen with protection and love. I feared she'd fall and be hurt or get sick from rain and cold, so I picked the finest enchanted yarn and wove protective spells into every strand before having it made into cloth. Yet, memories of his deceased daughter passed through Patrick's mind. He hadn't expected that fabric to survive all those years. Rixel looked down at the table, a choked wave of emotion rising when he heard about his mother, the fabric of mother. Rixel never showed it, but he must have always been curious about his mother. Consumed by his own broken heart, I'd left my grandchildren to face things alone. To break the somber mood, Leon chimed in enthusiastically. I plan to use that fabric to make some suits. Are you worried we'll run out? Don't worry about running out, don't be silly, thank you, sir. But the grandson's next question stunned him again and nearly made him drop his glass. When are you free to go to the tailor with us? What? Patrick was extremely surprised by the proposal. I thought only the two grandchildren would wear them. What are you saying? Of course you must wear one too. Rixel quickly offered a sensible suggestion. Brother, while I agree everyone should wear them, the head of household is very busy. Why don't we invite the tailor to the mansion? Good idea. He finally yielded to the two grandchildren's cleverness. Very well, it's up to you. Since you're in charge of this, Leon, I'll follow your lead. Thank you, sir. Leon secretly rejoiced that the first step of his plan had succeeded. Great. With his approval, there's no fear Grandpa's odd fashion sense will ruin the design, and people have started speaking more naturally. He beamed as the burden lifted. Now I can calmly focus on preparing for the coming-of-age ceremony. The mansion's atmosphere warmed and filled with light, and thereafter everything proceeded smoothly. Andri arrived at the residence and began measuring professionally. Thanks to Andri's visit, the preparation of the suits went off without a hitch. The maidservants and household staff busied themselves preparing for the ceremony, and the decorations for the event were also put in order. The clan's unity made everything progress very quickly, and they also received wholehearted support from the patriarch and Rixel. Brother, don't overwork yourself. Leave all the annoying tasks to me. I'm really worried about the household expenses. In truth, I hardly had to lift a finger. Needles and thread were prepared and ready for the final steps. Because of that resolve to make time for his hobby, he began a sewing practice session so he could devote himself to honing his tailoring skills. But something felt off. Everything seemed to be proceeding as usual until an unexpected notification appeared. Normally at this hour, a new talent had to awaken while he was sewing. New talent, tailoring proficiency has reached apprentice level 1. Instead of feeling happy, Lon grew suspicious. There should be a notification like this. Why isn't anything appearing? The suspicion quickly turned to fear. Why is that? It's not like when I was a blacksmith, but surely what I make is of decent quality. I handcraft everything from start to finish, not using a sewing machine, so why hasn't the talent awakened? This time I didn't skip any basic steps. He quickly denied his fear and tried to explain the delay. Could it be that I simply don't have a knack for this? No, don't jump to conclusions. I've spent so much time mending already. If there's a real lack of talent, it's probably in cooking. He began to question the difference between the two skills. So what's the difference between tailoring and cooking? Is it the tools, or do I need a mentor like Elvia had when learning alchemy? Doubt rapidly escalated into utter terror, but my alchemy relies more on instruments than on a teacher. Where exactly is the hitch? A servant suddenly entered and announced, "Young Master Andri has arrived." Sylvia rushed in breathlessly to report on the outfit preparations. "Are the clothes finished?" "It seems they are," but his expression looked a bit odd. He was puzzled by her hesitant tone. Odd expression? Yes, it looked like that. Sylvia's face showed clear worry and tension. Something very bad has just happened. Leon hurried down the corridor after hearing the news. Andri has arrived, but something seems off. I've invited him into the parlor for now. Do you want to see him immediately? He walked on, uneasy about what had happened. What on earth could it mean? Leon pushed open the parlor door and froze at the sight. What is this? The room was filled with glittering suits on display. Isn't this like bringing the entire fitting room in here? He couldn't help marveling at the scale of the garments. How could one man have brought all of this? Everything looks fine to me. Leon excitedly greeted the familiar designer. Uncle Andri, you're here. I've been waiting for you. Andri politely presented a finished suit for him to try on. This is the young master's ceremonial outfit. Would you like to try it now? So beautiful, a high-end ceremonial suit from a master tailor. Leon quickly slipped on the meticulously tailored coat. He shone brilliantly standing before the large mirror. So handsome. The master tailor's premium ceremonial suit. But Leon soon noticed a melancholy on Andri's face and asked, "What's wrong? You don't look happy." Andri's expression flickered with concern. "No, I admit it's extremely beautiful, but there's one thing that worries me." A system notification appeared with good news and then poured cold water on it. "You have obtained a superb quality outfit, but it is not suitable for a banquet." "What?" "Something is missing. Find the missing piece and reassure Andri." He examined it a moment and then brightened. "I understand." Leon touched the collar. The collar looked too bare. Andri flushed, his eyes lighting up as if he'd found a kindred genius. Exactly, young master. Around him were sketched accessories. The suit was perfect but lacked a focal point. Ties, neck ribbons, cravats, even a pocket square were missing. Leon propped his chin, pondering the dress code of this world. Indeed, in this world those details matter a lot, let's see. He imagined his grandfather and family wearing his designs. If everyone dressed in this style, grandfather should wear a formal, elegant tie. And because Rixal is still young, a youthful neck bow would suit him better. Andri stood before 3 mannequins wearing 3 unfinished ceremonial suits and hesitated. "Young master, pardon me, may I ask a favor of you?" "Asking you." Andri stood before 3 mannequins wearing 3 unfinished ceremonial suits and hesitated. "Young master, pardon me, may I ask a favor of you?" "Asking you." Leon gaped, eyes wide in shock at the proposal. "What?" Andri offered to teach him everything. "I'll teach you everything from making ties to embroidery." "Wait, not so fast before that." Leon was surprised and worried by the offer. "Would it be rude if I went and altered a master tailor's work on my own?" Andri began to recount a story from the past. "Is there a reason you're asking me for this?" "The thing is," Andri explained the connection between the young man's mother and these garments. "Actually, when I measured the head of the household the other day, I realized the young lady I once tailored for long ago was your mother. Although I was just a small, unknown tailor, she thanked me. The great meaning of clothes made out of love. I only then realized that both before and now, the garments she made for those she loved carried enormous significance." Andri urged him to personally finish the outfit. If the head of the household has entrusted magic into every stitch for his child, then the young master himself should be the one to complete this garment. Because this outfit needs something that Andri cannot provide. A happy smile and a realization of truth crossed his face. This was surely not an easy decision for a prideful tailor. It turned out that making beautiful clothes wasn't everything. Leon clenched his hands and smiled confidently. "He's been kind and thought of me like that. I must do my best." "I understand." He shrugged off the trial coat as he spoke. "I'll leave everything to you, sir." "Of course. Let's start choosing styles then. Please sit here." Leon sat at the drawing table and immediately picked up a pen to sketch. "Actually, I just had this idea." The sketchbook displayed sharply drawn ties and neck bows. "I get your idea. You want the head of the household to project noble elegance and the second young master to look youthful yet still refined, right?" Yes, I want everyone to see who's the heir of the clan at a glance. Excellent. Andri turned to ask him, and young master, what style do you want for yourself? Lun made a decision. I'll decide after finishing everyone else's. Understood, then we'll start practicing basic ties. A silk strip for a tie appeared on a shimmering background. The structure of a tie is like this. The loop that goes around the neck is the securing guard, the narrower end is the small blade, and finally the wide end, like this sword-shaped panel, will determine the overall silhouette of the tie, so its details must be handled with great care. Leon broke into a sweat and asked, why do you keep using sword-related terms? Did I use the wrong words? Don't use those words in front of grandfather. He's not really compatible with the Jian Sheng clan, he remarked while observing the fabric. You didn't use an interlining. Andri was surprised and praised. Your eye is keen. Normally there would be one, but this time it's unnecessary. He explained as he smoothed the white silk. The silk we use is premium and holds its shape for a long time. Expensive fabric shows, very high quality. Andri beamed with joy, ready for the task ahead. All right, let's begin. Leon remained humble at the praise. Good, very well done. You don't have to flatter me like that. The tie is far better than the maker's skill warrants. Now let's move on to the next step. They discussed ideas for embroidering the family crest onto the garments. Now we'll try embroidery. Do you have any ideas in mind? Yes, of course, I want to incorporate our house crest. The deep meaning behind the family crest you chose. A crest is like a brand symbol. Give it a convincing meaning and it will look noble at once. Look at these leaves attached to the branch. I did that to signify that our family will always remain united. My goodness, such profound meaning. Andri agreed and encouraged the young master to begin embroidering. Then let's embroider with that meaning in mind. He taught embroidery techniques to create refinement. The most important thing in embroidery is the surface texture. Clarify that part, and the embroidered image will look natural and delicate. Leon confidently vowed to finish on time. I understand. This is all about practiced hands more than anything. Give me 3 days, and I'll finish everything in that time. Andri expressed absolute faith in his talent, of course. I fully trust you, young master. A few days later, his finger was pricked and bled, accompanied by a cry. Leon sucked his injured finger and told himself, luckily it didn't go in deep. It looks okay. For days after that I sewed like mad and was pricked by needles countless times. I quickly used up the sample pieces Andri left and then designed my own patterns. He was determined. I also deliberately didn't use the miraculous repair kit, because if I keep relying on its guidance I'll never improve. Just call me stubborn. Leon held his head in helplessness, collapsed over the work table and sighed. It looks a little better, but thinking back it's still ordinary. This really isn't easy. Being pricked by needles non-stop makes me want to give up. He leaned his head back in the chair and complained wearily. My shoulders hurt, my eyes hurt. He stared at the outfit laid on the bed before him, standing silently without a word. Leon grabbed the fabric on the table with his hand, his eyes lighting up again. Don't give up. My speed is starting to pick up. A brilliant golden light suddenly enveloped his sewing hands. A golden mission notification appeared, shimmering. New talent, tailoring proficiency reached apprentice level 1 at last. Leon's tailoring skill quickly leveled up after he personally carried out the fabric cutting steps. Now I can. Tailoring proficiency reached apprentice level 2. Riding the momentum, achievement unlocked, reward 3,000 shilling. He continued painstakingly smoothing each crease. He kept receiving skill level up notifications from the system. He paused a moment to ponder the mechanics of crafting talent awakenings. Wait. Does the awakening of a crafting talent depend on? Looking at the fabric with the sketched leaf embroidery, Leon wondered how necessary the finished product was to him. How badly do I need that item? He recalled previous awakenings, when practical need was always the strongest catalyst. For example, when my smithing talent awakened, I desperately needed a sickle and a hoe to make medicine. When my cooking talent awakened, I also needed oil to make bread and biscuits. The rosemary sea oil gave off a refreshing aroma, new talent. Cooking proficiency reached apprentice level 1. But with tailoring, no matter what I did, it only increased proficiency, while the talent itself never awakened. Having clarified his current goal, he resolutely prepared the next necessary materials to focus on completion. In that case, what I need now is this. He confidently made decisive cuts without following preset patterns. Good thing I didn't use the repair kit from the start. It's still beautiful without following the guide. A premium tie. The tie's value increased by the artisan's hand. Leon prepared to undertake the decisive embroidery step to elevate the piece. Nice. The artisan hand finally activated. if I embroider it now. A white tie embroidered with leaf patterns in luxurious gold thread appeared within the glowing halo. A top-tier tie. The system repeatedly praised it. Unbelievable quality for an apprentice tailor's product. A masterpiece worthy of display anywhere. The moment the tie was placed on the outfit, the system immediately announced the two matching items had upgraded into a complete set. The resonance effect granted 1 extra point. Leon looked at the brilliant result before him and cheered with joy. I did it. Before him was a high-grade ceremonial suit, dazzling to behold. He looked at the finished piece and exclaimed with delight, my first 4-star item. This ceremonial suit can regulate body temperature regardless of the outside weather. Leon read this and was startled. There are bonus effects, too. At the same time, the system announced that Leon's great tailor achievement was 1/3 complete. He read the line and grinned excitedly. Awesome. If Rixel's outfit and mine turn out this well, too, the achievement will be finished in no time. Then Leon picked up the scissors and happily encouraged himself. Stay calm and keep focusing. Keen cuts flashed swiftly across the soft fabric. With skillful hands, he transformed that white cloth into a bow. A gem in the center flashed a streak of light under the lamp. After the bow was attached, the effect increased again. Now it not only regulates warmth, but also grants immunity to a certain amount of physical and magical damage. The progress bar reached 2/3. Lun said smugly, nice, Ruxul's outfit is done too. Next, he looked awkwardly at the nearby outfit. Now mine is the problem. Leon put his hand to his chin, thought for a moment and murmured, with the clan's reputation I can't wear something sloppy. And the main guest of the ceremony would look strange without a tie, to avoid matching grandfather's or Rixel's tie. An idea struck him. I'll shorten the long tie and turn it into a tie pin. Leon took a pen, sketching soft lines on paper as he muttered to himself. Then the focal point of the tie will be a gemstone. Let's see. He then turned toward a nearby box. I'll use one of grandfather's old gems. Leon eyed the glittering gems and thought with pleasure, this one looks perfect. It looks exactly like the eye color of someone in our family. Then he gently set the purple gem at the front of the collar and exclaimed excitedly, attach the gem here and it's finished. As soon as Leon completed that action, the great tailor achievement was completed. Along with generous rewards, the system also said since Leon achieved something extraordinary, he would receive extra money. Leon couldn't hide his surprise, extra money too. At that moment, the system announced he had over 100,000 shillings so he could buy all the available items. Reading that made him excited, 25,000 at once, and the shilling shop finally unlocked. I have to check it out right away. Leon was lost in joy and didn't notice heavy footsteps behind him. Suddenly, the door was pushed open with a thunderous crash that made him start and shout. Leon stammered in fear at Rixel's furious appearance. Rixel, why are you here? Rixel stormed in, face dark and voice harsh. Tomorrow is your coming-of-age ceremony. Why are you still sitting here sewing, brother? I heard you stayed up 3 nights in a row. At this rate, you'll faint before the ceremony even starts. Leon was so frightened his hair stood on end and he wondered. I have a deadline and no choice but to pull all-nighters. But how did the kid know? Rixel's expression was icy as he said in a low voice, go to sleep right now. Perhaps Leon was so scared by Rixel's wide-eyed stare that he let out a small cry. At the same time, Sylvia somehow produced a blanket and cheerfully smiled as she wrapped Leon up. Second young master is right. Come on, let me take you to bed. He was wrapped like a cocoon and could only whimper helplessly. No way, the shilling shop just unlocked. Don't make me go to sleep before I get to look through it. Just a little, please let me see for 1 second. Before him stretched the scene of the magnificent castle, bathed in blazing sunlight. At that moment, a voice rang out inside the castle, young master. Sylvia stood beside Leon and gently remarked, you look very dashing today, especially that tie. It suits you well. He heard that and breathed a happy sigh, really. That's great. A thought flashed through Leon's mind at once. The effort has paid off, even though I fainted the moment I hit the bed. The butler at that time dabbed his tears with a handkerchief and said emotionally, young master. Sylvia tilted her head slightly and smiled at the corner of her mouth. She looked at Leon's tall figure and thought to herself, the frail child from before has now undergone his coming-of-age ceremony. I once feared this day would never come for him. Time really does fly. At the same time, Rixel cheerfully stepped up to the two of them. Good morning, brother. Seeing him, the young man smiled curiously. Rixel, were you waiting for me? He looked at him tenderly and nodded, yes. Rixel raised an eyebrow and announced loudly, from now on I'll escort you. The sound of the door opening echoed through the space, followed by the young man's gentle voice, because today. Inside the room the party buzzed with excitement. Rixel now said in a serious tone, you're the star of the party, brother. In the elegant room, the melodious music of the symphony orchestra played. A young lady rolled her eyes and exclaimed in surprise, "The decorations are so grand. This is truly Asteria clan style." The middle-aged man beside her couldn't help but laugh. "This is even grander than a royal banquet." Another man with a glass of wine turned and said, "I heard that Marquis Patrick and his eldest nephew didn't get along, but it turned out to be nonsense." The man with the mustache shrugged calmly. "We'll see." A loud announcement rang out amid the noisy crowd. "Marquis Asteria and the young masters have arrived." Everyone immediately turned their heads toward the source of the sound. The murmurs and chatter rose non-stop. There's the Marquis, still as dignified as ever. Beside him is young Master Rixel, and following the two was Leon with a faint smile on his lips. The protagonist of today, young Master Leon. He wore an elegant outfit and stepped forward amid the applause of the guests. A woman, upon seeing Leon, sneered softly, "He doesn't look as imposing as I expected," somewhat overshadowed by the heir Rixel. The man beside her chimed in, "I heard he's a bit unusual too." Suddenly Patrick frowned and called Leon. He heard it and replied cheerfully, "Yes, sir." Then the Marquis looked at the nobles before him and warned sternly, "Listen carefully. Don't associate with those people over there. They're not the sort of people you should get involved with." Leon, surprised, immediately asked, "Are you worrying about me?" Patrick sighed, furrowing his brow as he reminded, "Remember, this is a public event. You'll be giving the opening speech soon. Compose yourself." Seeing the man's serious face, he couldn't help but laugh aloud. "Don't worry. I won't do anything to disgrace the Asteria heir." At the same time, he thought happily to himself, "He really does care for me in his own way." Leon adjusted his collar with one hand and thought calmly, "I won't bother engaging with flatterers. My only goal is." Then he bowed politely and introduced himself gently. "Hello, everyone. I'm Leon Asteria. Today I have officially come of age." His thoughts continued, to leave a good impression of the family in everyone's eyes. Leon spoke confidently without a hint of embarrassment. "I sincerely thank everyone for coming, especially the heirs who will lead this country in the future. Today Rixel froze the moment he saw this image. He scanned his older brother and wondered in astonishment, "Big brother, has he always been this reliable?" Just then, a young lady murmured, "Young Master Leon looks so captivating today." The girl beside her wiped sweat from her brow and hesitated. "So I'm not the only one who thinks so. It's hard to describe. He looks ordinary at first glance, but then..." The young lady in the yellow dress raised an eyebrow and asked, "Isn't there something special about his outfit?" She suddenly realized, right? Looking closely, you can see its subtle, minimalist beauty. The other girl nodded firmly. "It's not just the clothes, it brings out the wearer too," she agreed without hesitation. "Exactly, it's fitting for the Empire's most noble family." The young lady blushed and asked curiously, "I wonder which designer made it?" Another girl glanced over and answered, "I heard none of the tailors we know were awarded this commission." After observing for a moment, Patrick folded his arms and remarked, "The boy knows how to use his head." Rixel beside him heard this and turned in surprise. Then his cheeks flushed as he stammered, "Big brother, he planned this far ahead." The Marquis thought for a second and smiled faintly. "I'm not entirely sure, but he's always quick-witted, just like someone I know." Rixel still seemed puzzled, and at that moment Lun's gentle voice rang out, "Please enjoy yourselves until tomorrow. Relax and have a wonderful time at the party once again. Thank you all for traveling such a long way to be here. I will take my leave." With a bright smile, he cheerfully added, "I wish everyone a pleasant party." Crisp applause echoed throughout the room. When Rixel saw Leon step down from the stage, he exclaimed with delight, "Big brother, you're amazing." He looked at him with admiration and asked, "You're so busy, where did you find time to prepare such a speech? Did you practice secretly?" Leon blushed and chuckled, "Not really. I just spoke simply. But thanks for the compliment." A smug thought crossed his mind. Years of office work experience in Korea do pay off. At that moment, Patrick stepped forward and approvingly remarked, "The blood of this family shows itself. Even without mana or an aura, he still carries that dignified bearing." Then the Marquis smiled slightly and praised. "Well done," Leon replied happily. "Thank you, grandfather." Patrick then gently suggested, "All right, then we should go and enjoy the feast." The table was laid with a red cloth and plates of food that looked utterly appetizing, accompanied by the sweet strains of the orchestra's violins. A glass of red wine rippled gently, followed by a voice, "So, Leon." Then he looked toward Leon with curiosity. "Have you decided what you'll bring to the maze ceremony?" He raised the glass to his lips and took a small sip. Patrick's thoughts surfaced. "I hear what you receive in the maze depends on the item you bring. Those who bring spellbooks gain new magical knowledge, and those who bring staves receive new attack spells. For an ordinary mage, the results are predictable. But since you aren't a mage, it's a complete unknown. In that case, Leon toyed with the red wine in his hand and hesitated. Then he smiled and confidently declared, "I'll probably bring the potion I made myself." Leon felt a pang of frustration as he thought, "I have no magical talent and currently no decent equipment. Even this 4-star outfit was made by Uncle Andrew, and I just added the tie. So let me bring the best thing I crafted with my own hands." Patrick fell silent in thought for a moment, then couldn't help but sigh. That's right, thinking that way is good. After all, the maze will only grant you knowledge suited to your current ability. And there's one more thing I want to ask. Are you interested in politics or the position of heir? Leon didn't bother thinking long and gave a firm answer, "No, sir." That left Patrick a little puzzled. "You answer right away." He sensed the other hadn't accepted the idea and hurried to emphasize as if burned, "Are you certain?" "Not in the slightest. That will never happen, sir. Besides, I'm convinced Rixel will be the next family head." Meanwhile, Rixel was still overwhelmed with emotion looking at his brother. Big brother. Patrick cleared his throat and addressed his young nephew. "If that's the case, Ruxal, can you cherish your brother as if he were your own life?" The boy quickly placed his hand over his heart and made a solemn vow. "Yes, I swear on the family's honor and by my own mana," expecting a long ritual discussion to follow. But instead the Marquis merely took a sip of wine to clear his throat, nodded and murmured, "So it's settled then." Patrick paid no mind to the puzzled looks from his two nephews, and happily fireworks went off in his head. "I never expected the succession issue I worried most about to be resolved so quickly. It makes me want to boast about it to the whole world. As of now, the families posing the greatest threat to Asteria are the royal family and the Sword Saint clan." That idle thought inadvertently annoyed Patrick, and he cast his eyes toward the distance, where two young successors sat dining and chatting together. "Those old royals are busy fighting over the throne, so we don't need to worry about them for the time being." It seemed things would stop there, but Patrick continued looking toward the girl in the distance. "The problem lies with the Bidentes clan. Their bloody purge under the guise of a succession ritual only ended not long ago. Rumor has it a young woman shouldered all that bloodshed to rebuild the clan. What kind of savage age are we living in that allows such things to happen? Yet because they're busy with internal affairs, it's an advantage for us. Though they're highly sensitive now, so it's best to avoid conflict if possible." Realizing he'd been silent too long, Patrick cleared his throat and began the conversation. "All right, Leon. I understand your thoughts. Then continue living the life you want as a member of the Asteria family." He narrowed his eyes and smiled as he asked politely, "And if you cause trouble, what do you think I'll do?" The Marquis gave a short, calm reply. "Go ahead and try if you want, however." The way he deliberately dragged out the sentence without finishing it left Leon puzzled. "However what?" Patrick unexpectedly revealed a rough side. "If you get hurt, I won't let it go." The remark made him break out in a cold sweat. "I'll be taken out before I even die from causing trouble." Leon quickly bowed to show his resolve. "I will live quietly, peacefully, and take good care of myself." Patrick finally heard what he wanted and cheerfully nodded. "Good. Let's finish our meal." The banquet continued for a long while, until Leon had time to savor his wine alone, while his eyes remained fixed on where everyone had gathered. Thanks to the earlier conversation, he was lucky to be pushed to the side of the feast and had time to brood. Both the Marquis and Ruxel were trying too hard. Dealing with those nobles is truly exhausting and troublesome. He slowly handed the half-finished glass back to the waiter while his mind was still occupied. "But I also have my own matters to attend to." For some reason, Alex took the initiative to greet him. "Hello, Leon. I've been curious all this time. Could you reveal who designed that exquisite outfit?" The question instantly triggered Leon's business instincts. "This is my first customer." No matter how frantic his thoughts, he kept a polite demeanor learned from etiquette lessons. "Of course, certainly." No sooner had Leon finished speaking than a stream of potential clients appeared. Speaking eagerly, "Leon, me next, me too. Please share with me." While he was still dazed, not understanding what was happening, even more people gathered than he expected. This is the power of a 4-star outfit effect. Leon's mouth volunteered to capture the noble's attention. "Everyone's curious about who made this costume, right? But I'm a little hesitant." The off-script reply naturally puzzled Alex and the others. "What?" Leon suddenly put on an embarrassed expression as he spun a more than enticing story. The designer happens to be an illegitimate child of a noble family, and because he also sold garments to commoners, he was shunned by the aristocracy. As expected, the nobles bit the bait almost immediately with no questions. Oh my, in this day and age they still discriminate against tailors for that. The people around the first prince tend to be strict about such things. Leon froze for a few seconds when he heard murmurs mentioning the royal family. "Wait, The second prince is also an illegitimate child, right? Perhaps Uncle Andrew became a target of public opinion amid the prince's secret rivalry. He quickly recovered his momentum and launched into a friendly, businesslike pitch. Anyway, because of that I can introduce him to you. But if that makes anyone uncomfortable. Before Leon could finish, the nobles burst into laughter and chatter. Not at all. Please tell us. We're only interested in the outfit itself. With that firm confirmation, he smiled confidently and introduced the mysterious man. Since everyone is so enthusiastic, it would be rude to hide it. Let me introduce him. The tailor who made this outfit is Andrew. His shop is in the southern territory of our family. Alex finally heard the tailor's name and gaped in amazement. I suspected it, so he really exists. I've wondered where he disappeared to. Turns out he's being sheltered by House Astaria. Before anyone could say more, Leon dropped a bombshell in the middle of the feast. You'd better hurry if you want to book him. As far as I know, there are only about 3 slots left. The nobles were stunned by the news, only 3 slots. As he was about to continue, Clarentia unexpectedly revealed herself. Wait. She ignored everyone avoiding her and calmly asked Leon, that tailor, does he really accept commissions for any kind of garment? While those around were still discussing, what would she order? Maybe a stunning gown. He maintained his friendly service attitude and replied, of course, Madame Clarentia by Dentes. As Leon's mind busied with calculations, an order from the Sword Saint clan. He quickly got to the point. If you don't mind, may I ask what type of garments you wish to commission? As expected, Clarentia answered without hesitation. I intend to order training gear and comfortable everyday clothes. But what she said next gave everyone goosebumps. My old outfits are all torn and can't be worn anymore. A chill aura emanated from Clarentia that terrified the nobles into fleeing instantly. Oh my back suddenly hurts. Oh God, my head. I forgot to turn off the stove at home. Oh dear, something urgent came up. I must go at once. I'll book next time for sure. So the great hall was left with only Clarentia and Leon, which made him a little awkward, and they all fled cleanly. Well then, because she was rumored to be a survivor of that bloody purge, it's understandable people fear her. But a customer is still a customer. No need to bother with those rumors. That rational line of thinking helped Leon calm down, switch into salesman mode, and speak up. The number of garments is quite large, so it may take a bit longer than expected. Is that all right? Clarentia didn't hesitate and agreed at once. That's not a problem. Do I need to pay a deposit? Leon didn't need a moment to think to give a proper answer. We'll arrange that after the banquet ends. The moment Clarentia left, Leon couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It ended far more simply than he'd expected. Now next up is. He quickly turned to those who had fled earlier. The remaining slots were all taken in an instant. Does anyone want to add their name to the waiting list? Just like that, he had coaxed a stream of potential clients into signing up for tailoring, resulting in an order list nearly as thick as an ordinary notebook. After who knows how long, he looked at his ledger and couldn't help smiling broadly. Nice. Uncle Endry will be pleased with this many orders, right? Suddenly Sylvia appeared and softly announced, Young master. The head has announced the test is ready. Leon nodded without thinking. Yes, I'm coming right away. A while later, Leon stood dazed before Patrick's study door. Before he could open it, Thura suddenly appeared and spoke to Leon. Truly the Asteria heir famed for magic, as expected. You don't look worried at all. That 3 parts concern, 7 parts sarcasm tone annoyed him. This guy knows full well I can't use magic. But on the surface, Leon still had to put on a friendly reply. Only before he could finish, Rixel interrupted to save him, of course. Why should my brother be worried? The fact that you can face an opponent backed by greater power made Leon break out in a cold sweat. This Rixel, at moments like this, he looks exactly like Lord. Completely different from how he treats me, and the Crown Prince is precisely the type Ruxol would loathe. He truly has ability, but his nature is one of decadence and indulgence. Thuz didn't want to argue and lose face, so he immediately bowed out. I will return to my seat now. After the 2 princes left, Rixel anxiously spoke to his brother. Brother, the potion you mentioned is in here. Come back safely. Leon quickly nodded enthusiastically in reply. Entirely different from his earlier awkwardness. Yes, thank you. He slung the bag over his shoulder and let a wave of nostalgia rise in his mind. This place brings back so many memories. I used to come here diligently as a child. For someone like me who couldn't awaken any talent, this place was once a sanctuary and refuge. It said the original owner left a treasure here after the war with the demon clan ended. But what could that item be, if even they call it a treasure? Then it must be an extremely valuable item, even in the game. Sylvia suddenly handed Leon a sharp knife. Young master, You know its function, so he simply gave a quiet thanks. Then he quickly sliced a small cut on his finger, letting his blood drip straight to the floor. The formation beneath Leon activated at once, causing the vast manor to tremble, making Thuris, who had just come down to the hall, involuntarily wonder, who knew merely opening the door would cause such a shock. Meanwhile, unaware of the guest's concern, Lun focused all his attention on the strands of spirit force reaching out. They quickly coiled tightly around his waist, then suddenly pulled Leon into the space behind that door, regardless of how panicked the others were. The Asteria clan's maze library, depending on the will of the maze, it can be passed without any trials. However, if those who enter give in to greed and willfully sabotage it, it will immediately become an inescapable dungeon. Yet its terrifying power can trigger an earthquake of great magnitude, making the entire manor shake as if about to collapse, which sent the two princes and the others into a panic. What's happening? Be careful, everyone. At the same time, Leon, who had opened the library, was trying to open his eyes into the light before him after being pulled inside. Something's wrong. The library doesn't usually open like this. What on earth is happening? He shouted in alarm as soon as he saw what was before him, because Leon suddenly realized he was being drawn into a strange, dark void within the library. He saw Patrick's and Rixel's terrified faces and his heart tightened. He tried not to make a sound. Lord Rixel, what's happening to me? Time passed unnoticed. Leon's whole body floated in a mysterious, wondrous space. The system here suddenly issued a long announcement. Whether or not the owner had regained consciousness, you have achieved the book maze achievement. You are granted permission to read all books in the library, intelligence +10, permanent mana +10. A high-grade pure mana circle has been formed. Back at the banquet, the constant trembling of the space made everyone scream in fear. The flickering candles now swung chaotically. Wine glasses began to fall uncontrolled to the floor. Everyone scrambled to escape to save their lives. Help me, where is the marquis? Suddenly the ornate chandelier above swayed violently, causing its chain to snap from the ceiling. The massive chandelier then plunged down in free fall. Alex was the only one to notice and froze in place. The chandelier is falling. Fortunately, before the chandelier could hit her, Patrick's spell quickly knocked it aside. Alex, having escaped death, regained her wits and muttered, "We're alive." Dubert couldn't help shouting, "This is Lord Patrick's protective energy. He's shielding us." The chaotic situation in the Asteria Manor stabilized within a short time. At the same time, Patrick stood on the upper floor, dispersing his mana across the area. He anxiously ordered Ruxun, "Go to the banquet hall and guide everyone out. I've set up several protective barriers." The man hurriedly bowed in confirmation. "Yes, my lord." Once people began to move, Rixel panicked and blurted out, "Sir, what on earth happened?" Patrick looked at the devastated space around him and couldn't help but sigh. "The library has gone out of control. I told Rixon to evacuate the guests first." "What about the princes?" After the recent events, Thura straightened his usual flippant posture and replied seriously, "They're safe. Rixel deployed protective magic for them." With that answer, Patrick could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. Everyone is unharmed. "Rixel, send healers to the wounded and prepare lodging for the remaining guests. I will guard the maze entrance. I entrust the handling of this situation to you." Suddenly given such a heavy responsibility, Rixel immediately showed panic. "Yes, that's too dangerous, my lord. I'll stay as well." But Patrick refused him without much thought. "No. As the next heir of the family, you must fulfill your duties." Thuris, seeming to sense the Asteria family's tense situation, nervously spoke up. "Marquis, it's very dangerous. We don't know what the maze is like now." Patrick suddenly turned back with his usual stern look and replied, "Do you expect me to be put in danger over these trivial disturbances? Or have I been unaware until now of how deeply these honored guests care for me?" "Rixel, go now." His tone brooked no objection and left Rixel stunned. As the atmosphere began to calm, the two princes cautiously spoke. "Yes, Leon should be fine. Come on, I'll help out too." Rixel paid no attention to them and only worried silently, "Brother." The three young men quickly left the dangerous floor, leaving Patrick alone with many concerns as he looked toward the library door. The maze's condition is fluctuating abnormally. If Rixel gets pulled into this as well. Suddenly a familiar, melodious voice rang out. "In such an emergency, you're still staying." Patrick, having just seen Clarentia's face, blurted out, "Lady of the Bidenti's house. Why are you staying instead of leaving?" She didn't bother to answer and casually changed the subject. "It seems you're sure he's still alive," as if she already knew the result. Patrick didn't reply, but his pensive expression gave Clarentia the answer in silence. So she calmly spoke, startling him, "I'll help." Patrick frowned in puzzlement. "Why? It would benefit your house more if you didn't help us." Clarentia was silent for a few seconds before giving a fairly reasonable answer. Well, I just had several outfits tailored for him. I don't like my plans being ruined. Then I'll wait nearby. She offered a gentle remark. That child's acuity is by no means ordinary, which forced him to nod despite himself indeed. Sylvia, erect a barrier around the maze. The order has been given, how could you not comply? Yes. While Sylvia was busy channeling mana to form a magical barrier, Patrick cleared his throat and instructed her. This must absolutely not be allowed to leak out. From now on, we focus on restoring the area outside the maze. That way at least Leon will have a route to get out. Meanwhile, Leon, unaware of the chaos outside, lay back leisurely enjoying the fresh air around him. The picturesque nature made him so delighted, he hummed a few tunes he had composed. The melodious birdsong blended with the soft breeze, bringing a smile to Leon's face. Suddenly, he accidentally saw the familiar system notification. You have achieved Book Maze, he muttered to himself. This gives me a headache. Seeing this achievement means I've cleared the maze. But I don't understand what the hell I did to clear it. Leon sat up irritably to calm his mind and recalled what he'd seen in the game. This is the reward collection area. Since the maze has been completed, this place should be safe. So how do I claim the reward? In the game, you just click it. Being passive in this situation frustrated Leon, which means I entered and exited here before without obstacle. The only thing that changed since then is my mana amount, right? No, that can't be it. It only increased by a little over 10 points. If it were just mana, then my relatives would treat the maze's destination like their living room. Besides, if anyone could enter that easily, Grandpa wouldn't have stored a treasure here. Or maybe it's related to the fact that I'm possessing this body. This new idea gave Leon some hope to find a new line of reasoning for his vague plan. After all, Grandpa once said the first house master hid a treasure here 500 years ago, after the war with the demon clan ended alongside the hero. That hero suddenly vanished without a trace after the war ended. As Leon thought of that, he suddenly froze. This maze was solved the moment I stepped in. Unlike when I used to visit the library frequently. This is the first time I've come here since transmigrating into this body. What if the maze recognized not Leon Asteria but someone else? It sounds a bit absurd, but the war with the demon clan is the game's background. Players embody the hero, fight the demon clan, and save the world. If the treasure the first house master hid happened to belong to that hero, then wait, isn't this an item from that character? Leon sat on the grass, hand on his chin thinking as he glanced around. If the hero's treasure hidden here was an item I once owned, the system likely tagged it as an old item to retrieve. Then he slowly stood and said firmly, in any case, I can't stay here forever. With just one ring of mana, I can't even touch 4-ring spells. So the only way is to use strength to break this place open. Next, Leon took step after step forward. There must be a way through, even if my level is low, but his footsteps suddenly halted. It seemed he had noticed something. Then Leon looked down at the flowers growing at his feet. Come to think of it, these white flowers. Information about a rare, pure white flower appeared. This flower doesn't grow with other species and is often used as an ornamental plant. He finished reading and raised an eyebrow, looking closely there planted in a pattern. It seems the entire map follows a certain order. Beside the pure white flowers are ordinary purple grasses. They also grow separately rather than mixed with other species. Leon scanned the flower field and pondered. Each area contains only one plant species. But if they're all mixed like this, it means. He folded his arms and confidently inferred. This area is subdivided, and these plants were arranged artificially. There must be a section planted out of pattern that holds the key to escape. And the most unusual spot is, the moment he saw what was ahead, Leon gaped in shock. Then he grinned smugly. So the place where different plants that shouldn't grow near each other cluster together is here. Next, Leon gently closed his eyes. A strong flow of blue energy emanated around him as he stood silently. Thinking, I'll close my eyes and focus on my heartbeat. Let my awareness sink into the body and flow with that rhythm. A magic circle appeared on his chest, and Leon, feeling it, smiled inwardly. This is a mana circle, how interesting. At that moment, the system announced successful localization of the mana circle. Now he can view its data. Leon closed his eyes again and told himself, all right, Leon, focus, try to channel mana into the eyes. A powerful surge of energy rose. He suddenly opened his eyes wide. The Witch Eye support skill activated, duration over 10 minutes. When Leon saw red points appear on the flower field, he was startled. That was close. Spots where all 3 plant types coexist are almost all traps. Then he shifted his gaze to another flower area. Either there are no mana threads, or that spot is designed to trigger magic if touched the wrong way, not this one. After scanning around, Leon smiled happily. Need to go a little farther. The scene of him walking across the flower field appeared. Blue streams of power wafted through the air. Leon was moving forward when he suddenly stopped. Just then the system announced the Witch Eye skill had been enhanced, and the area's hidden name was revealed. He looked at the source where the illusionary mana threads were emanating and rejoiced. Found it. Leon kneeled before the energy source and hesitated. Should I dig down to check? Next, he cheerfully opened the system shop. If so, I need something to remove these mana threads. Let's see which shilling shop. Because Leon's assets exceeded 100,000 shilling, all items unlocked. His current membership rank is bronze. Leon exclaimed in surprise. With everything unlocked, there's even a new page. He swiped the system screen and raised an eyebrow. Survival. Since this is what I need most now, I'll check this category first. Lun looked at the product and blurted out. No, weight, wear, and tier lowers the success rate. Success chance 20%, remaining uses 1. After reading, he put his hands on his hips in anger. What kind of items are these? Is this a scam? Never mind the price. I can't even use most of these. Isn't this outrageous? At the same time, the system suggested applying filters. Leon couldn't hide his delight. Great. It really has that function. Then he excitedly requested, show me items under 120,000 shilling, sort from cheapest to most expensive, include discounted items. The system immediately loaded the results. A sound chimed. Leon was pleased the system was working. Much easier to filter this way. But when he saw the results on screen, his expression fell. Most of these won't help right now. Then he looked at two products, a magic detector and a sharp pair of shears, and analyzed hesitantly. These two seem the best choices. The magic detector is tempting, but too expensive. The shears are certainly the more practical choice for now. With my current skills, I couldn't break illusion magic even with a detector. Gritting his teeth, Leon made the decision and reached out to buy. I'll buy this. Just then the system announced the sharp shears had been permanently bound to him. He looked at the item and raised an eyebrow with a chuckle. I've been saving shilling since I arrived here, and it vanished in an instant. At least I like the permanent binding. Hopefully it solves the problem. Next, Leon said excitedly, now let's dig up the source of that mana thread. He took out a shovel and declared with satisfaction, all the hard crafting and gathering work finally pays off. Digging will be a breeze now. Having said that, Leon immediately set to work. His hands kept driving the shovel into the ground. At the same time, the system announced the Witch Eye would last one more minute. He was startled and exclaimed, it's that long already, wait. Just then the shovel head struck something hard with a jarring clang. Leon widened his eyes in surprise. There it is. Unable to hide his excitement, he dug with both hands. Hurry up. Leon gripped the object, emitting strands of energy buried in the earth. He lifted the treasure chest and remarked with delight, it's exactly like the reward chests in the game. The system began a 10-second countdown. Leon hurriedly replied as he used the shears to cut the thread. Got it, got it. When the timer reached the 7th second, his sharp shears severed the thread. The enhanced Witch Eye skill ended. He looked at the chest glowing golden with eager eyes. It's activated. The system asked if Leon wanted to claim the reward. Leon answered without hesitation, of course. The item is bound to me and stored in the inventory. It cannot be identified here. He smiled happily at the light before him. Binding confirms it truly is my item. Next, Leon wondered in confusion what exactly it was that couldn't be checked here. At the same time, the system announced that because he obtained a related item, he would be entered into story mode. This is an unskippable memory. Leon broke out in a nervous sweat. He stared in disbelief and demanded, hang on. What is this? What is story mode? What's happening? Before him appeared the image of a door with ornate patterns. Patrick and Rixel stood before the door. The atmosphere looked quite tense. Suddenly he narrowed his eyes and asked in a low voice, Rixel, I assume the fallout in public opinion has been handled satisfactorily. You replied honestly, yes, master. We blamed the chaos on an earthquake. There are no signs of other incidents at present. Then Rixel broke into a sweat and avoided his gaze. I've also secured cooperation pledges from the two princes on this matter. The head of the Sword Saint Bidenti's clan has pledged to ensure false rumors won't spread. Patrick nodded and remarked, good, he thought to himself, this will keep the rumor from spreading through the royal family and nobility. Who would have thought the first prince's incompetence would be useful now? Then he asked in a low voice, what about the temple and the underworld? You wiped your brow and answered, we acted at both places before the information leaked. At least your brother's whereabouts remain unknown. Patrick frowned at that. Well done. He affirmed inwardly that no matter what happens, the information must not be revealed to those two places, the temple and the underworld. One side has an archbishop who is obsessively concerned with anything related to the hero, and the underworld was founded by one of the hero's comrades and has now become a major force. The thought occurred to him at once. Unlike others, those two places have the intellect to uncover the core truth. If we're not careful, they could realize Leon possesses special power. And in fact, Leon is indeed connected to the hero. The first piece of evidence is the hero's vial. The second piece is what's happening right now. Trouble began the moment Leon entered the labyrinth that houses the hero's treasure. There must be something Leon himself doesn't know about. Until we find out what it is, the information must be kept completely secret. Suddenly, a loud noise made Patrick and Rixel startle and look in one direction. The space around them shook violently. At that moment, someone cried out in panic, "The labyrinth is moving." Patrick immediately raised an eyebrow to signal. Everyone prepare to respond. He spoke guardedly and hesitantly. "I sense a great power erupting from inside." Rixel, seeing the light appearing on the door, said in alarm, "Something is coming out." Suddenly, something shot out and struck Patrick squarely in the forehead. Much to his astonishment, after being hit, Patrick tried to choke back his anger until his whole body shook. Rixel held the object in doubt and said, "This is." He looked closely at what had been ejected and exclaimed in surprise, "A letter." Rixel skimmed the handwriting on the paper and asserted confidently, "Though it looks hastily written, this is definitely our brother's handwriting. There's no blood or damage." Patrick, a little curious and sweating, asked, "What's written on it?" He looked up pale-faced, "Yes." At that moment, the system announced Leon had successfully accessed story mode. After fainting for a while, he gradually came to. Leon pushed himself up and held his head. "My head hurts. Am I in story mode already?" Before him was a short character scene. Leon guessed from it. Judging by the title, this seems to be someone's memory. A man's face, unseen, presented the small chest with a smile and said, "I don't need it anymore, Patrick. You take care of this." The moment Leon heard the familiar name, he jolted. "Patrick. This is the memory of the day my grandfather received the item from the hero." Voices in the memory took turns speaking. "Not yet, we haven't finished everything. Why now keep it for a day when needed?" Leon was drenched in sweat, clutching his head in panic. "Damn it. It's important, but I can't hear it clearly. And why is the viewpoint like this? I should have been more careful creating my character. I used random mode, so now I can't remember who it was." Patrick then took the chest and said solemnly, "Understood. I'll be in charge of safekeeping." At that moment, the system announced he had observed a stored memory, and the story mode ended. He heard this and stared in bewilderment. "What, it's over already?" Then Leon broke out in a sweat and complained with a grimace, "I thought I'd see something important. But in the end, I gained no information at all." He looked at the small treasure chest in his hands and mused. Judging by the timing, this was probably left during the war with the demon tribe. It seems the person left it to my grandfather for use on a needed day. Inside the chest were glittering pieces of jewelry. Leon eyed the item with some suspicion. This set of accessories hides a skill. Next, Leon put the ring on and raised an eyebrow. Actually, in the game, this item isn't hard to find. Only those who want to hide their power use it. But in practice, it's an experience-boosting support item. I even once equipped one on every character to farm extra XP. Anyway, I don't know which character in my account it's tied to. But since they didn't need it, they left it here. Besides, it appeared just when I needed to hide mana, so I'm grateful. Then he closed his eyes slightly. At the same time, the system asked if he wanted to check information about the mana circle. He answered firmly without hesitation, yes. After analysis, the system immediately reported that the current surplus mana was extremely low. Leon was startled and wondered to himself, "Huh, how strange. Could my first circle really hold that much mana?" A man clasped his hands to concentrate mana appeared, and he silently thought to himself, "Everyone trains and meditates day and night to expand their mana reservoir before they can form a second or third circle." Seeing this, Leon couldn't help but be curious. "Why is my first circle so large?" His face wore a worried, slightly bewildered expression. But Leon shrugged off his doubts. "Fine. If it's useful, then it's good." Then he stood up quietly. "Anyway, this will keep my secret safe. Even if it's an event item, it's treated as a treasure here. Big profit. Looks like I'll have an unforgettable coming-of-age ceremony." Suddenly, Leon looked up and broke into a sweat. Now the problem is, he looked around and smiled wryly to himself. "I'm still stuck in the labyrinth." In the quiet space, Leon said aloud, "First I have to move and find a way out." At the same time, his foot accidentally kicked a book on the ground. At that moment, the system warned access was denied. He can't access without permission from the library owner. Then it announced he was the owner here. He was stunned and blurted, "Huh, I've become the owner." Lun frowned with some worry and muttered, "Maybe it's because I completed the labyrinth. This wasn't my plan." Text appeared on the screen. The labyrinth entrance is damaged and undergoing automatic repair. The system asked if he wanted to teleport to the endpoint. Reading it, he was shocked. What, the furnishings are wrecked, and now even the entrance is broken if this keeps up. Then Leon broke into a cold sweat and said, "He'll definitely scold me. I don't want to be scolded. What should I do?" Patrick's enraged face sprang to mind along with an angry voice. "You idiot. I told you to do as you like. Who expected you'd cause this disaster?" Suddenly he raised an eyebrow and wondered, "Wait, if I'm the owner, can I fix it?" The system suggested repairing the labyrinth, but that would return bound items to their original positions. Leon read and immediately declined. If so, the things I just took would disappear, and the library of books accumulated while building the labyrinth would be lost. Not acceptable. Next, he curiously asked if there was another way. The system quickly offered another option. Manually adjust the labyrinth to repair it. Repair resources for the entrance will be delivered, and it will take time to complete. Leon read and nodded, muttering, "It seems like editing a save file. The last time I added books was a week ago, except for the treasures I'm holding. I'll restore it to its state from a week ago." Then he asked eagerly, "How long will it take?" The system replied it would take 672 hours, and he himself would not be able to leave during that time. Leon hesitated and stammered, "How many hours?" The screen showed 672. He yelped in shock, "So that's a month." Then he broke into a sweat and asked hesitantly, "Can I move around inside the labyrinth during that time?" The system said he could move freely inside the library. Lun didn't stop and asked, "Is there a way to send word out while repairs occur?" The system said there's a book chute currently unused. Lun brightened. "Perfect. First, I'll send a note to Grandpa and Ruxall so they won't worry." Then he wiped his sweat and nodded. "Okay," Leon said seriously, "repair it." The system heard and immediately began repairs. The books were lifted and floated through the air by a source of energy. Even the ladder and wooden chairs that had been overturned were moving about. The space inside the library seemed to shift. The system also reported there were 671 hours and 59 minutes remaining to complete the labyrinth's restoration. Leon watched this with his hands on his hips. Satisfied, all right. So can you take me to the labyrinth's end?" A spatial gate immediately appeared before him. He stared in wonder and remarked, "Convenient feature indeed." Then Leon calmly said, "From now on I just need to survive for a month. To do that." Suddenly Leon looked surprised as if he'd seen something. He looked toward the clear pool and exclaimed in surprise, "Maybe that's it, a lake." Leon's reflection rippled lightly on the water's surface. He stepped closer to the water's edge, marveling, "I didn't expect there to be such a large lake inside the labyrinth. Luckily, it doesn't seem dangerous." Just as Leon was relaxing, the system immediately displayed a warning. The lake contains bilaterally symmetrical aquatic creatures and 10-legged crustaceans. Leon winced and suggested, "Can you explain that in simpler terms?" The system obligingly began to explain, "There are many edible fish and crustaceans. If you try fishing, you can catch varieties ranging from common and advanced to rare." He didn't hesitate and asked, "How many rare fish are there?" The system answered only one. At the same time, the system announced the lake's fishing feature had been unlocked by the owner's privileges. Leon jumped and said, "I can fish, but I don't have a rod. There's one." The float bobbed on the clear water, accompanied by his humming. Leon sat at the water's edge holding the rod and cheerfully thought, "Lucky there's fishing gear in Schilling's shop. Even though I spent quite a bit of money. I thought if there was no other option I'd eat the bait too, but I've already caught a few fish." He whistled calmly and laughed with excitement. "Looks like I won't starve." Suddenly the float jerked hard, making Leon cry out in surprise. He broke into a sweat and declared confidently, "This one is different from the ones I caught earlier." The fishing line was pulled taut. Leon watched in amazement and murmured, "This thing is strong. Could it be a big fish?" But he gripped the rod with both hands and tried to calm himself. "Slowly now, don't rush." The head of a purple fish surfaced. Leon grunted, "Come on." Then he yanked the rod and shouted with excitement, "Got it." At that moment, the system announced he had caught a labyrinth carp. Simultaneously, a system notification appeared. "You have caught a labyrinth carp." The species info popped up immediately. No fine bones, no muddy fishy smell, excellent flavor. The labyrinth carp before him made him exclaim with satisfaction, "It's really big." Afterwards, Leon looked at his sturdy hands. Feeling relaxed and awed, the feeling when you pull a fish in is real. No wonder everyone likes fishing. His enlightened expression triggered repeated cheerful system messages. "You have awakened a new talent, fishing, and your proficiency reached level 1. Then Leon put the labyrinth carp into his basket and said excitedly, "Good. Tonight's dinner will be this carp." A nutritious carp is exactly what this weak body needs. He stood up carrying it across a patch of flowers and green grass, wondering, should I prepare a place to cook first? Then the necessary items gradually appeared. Table and chairs, frying pan, and other household utensils. Leon quickly placed the labyrinth carp on the table while his hands and eyes focused on the system screen to select tools. I had stored it away earlier fearing Rixel might catch a cold in the forest. But now it seems usable for something else. I'll also take out the alchemy kit. Leon hesitated as he scrolled the screen, then exclaimed in surprise, what's this? The system quickly explained, it's a magic flint that makes fire starting easy. He sighed in relief and remembered. A bonus gift. Thanks to this I can start a fire easily. Having said that, Leon immediately selected it. The stone that appeared emitted a small flame. Standing before the blazing flame, he put his hands on his hips and bent down in admiration. Having a fire makes the space feel so much more comfortable. It strangely gives me a sense of reassurance. Afterwards, Leon turned toward the table, adjusted his sleeve and thought to himself, all right, now to prepare the carp. He carefully traced graceful cuts along the fish's body with the knife, murmuring, when eating outdoors, the best is still primitive-style roasting. Lun gently removed the labyrinth carp's internal organs. At the same time, the system's description panel appeared. The organs are not edible but can be used in alchemy. Seeing that he looked both excited and skeptical, usable for alchemy. Saying that, Lun decisively picked up the organs and thought, then I should store this in an alchemy vial. Done, he wiped his hands and looked radiantly at the boiling vial beside him. Then wondered, is it because it's an alchemical ingredient? As soon as I put it in, it heated up automatically, convenient. While preparing, he imagined delicious dishes and sighed with pleasure. Skewers really are magical. It feels like anything you put on a skewer tastes better. Or is it just me? Looking at the fresh skewers on the table, Leon pondered, fish skewers should be placed head down. With the head down, the fat will drain out. Staring at the carp about to be eaten, he continued to daydream, while the fresh juices are retained inside, making the exterior crispy and the interior juicy. Following that logic, Leon immediately skewered fish and vegetable kebabs. He cheered excitedly, delicious. The primitive grilled carp is ready. Suddenly he stood up, looked at the neatly arranged gear by the tree and hesitated while waiting for the fish to cook. Should I prepare a place to sleep? Thinking it, he acted. Leon quickly gathered small stones, thinking to himself it's a bit clunky, but he enthusiastically enjoyed laying things out and encouraged himself. After all, when will I get an experience like this again? To enjoy romance, you have to put in some effort. When finished, Leon looked pleased at the spot he'd arranged and said, not bad at all. Just then the aroma spread everywhere, making him turn and exclaim, smells amazing. Leon sat down peacefully in his own chair. His eyes shone as he gazed at the fish skewer in his hand. Move. At the same time, the system reminded him, grilled labyrinth carp has a low chance of providing satiety. But what Lun cared about was the final line. Note, cannot be taken out of the labyrinth. He widened his eyes and muttered to himself, this is the first time I've seen a warning like this. So these are just the labyrinth's delicacies. But he brushed that aside and brought the fragrant fish to his mouth to enjoy. Whatever, bon appetit. He ate attentively while observing and praising. The crispy scales outwards must be from the fat turning golden and crunchy like fried food. The meat inside, revealed between the belly slits, was unbelievably tender. Finally, Leon looked at the grilled labyrinth carp with satisfaction. Above all, the alluring charred aroma typical of grilled fish truly whetted the appetite. Thinking that, Leon was moved to tears. The flavor made him want a steaming bowl of white rice with kimchi right away. Afterwards, he contentedly enjoyed the earthly flavors like a tame cat. They'd said carp often have a strong, muddy smell. But the labyrinth carp had almost no odor and few fine bones, absolutely delicious. This flavor really makes you want to share it with others. Suddenly, a notification popped up that made Leon suspicious. What has my maximum mana increased? Watching the magic circle before him grow larger and larger, he vaguely couldn't believe it. This can't be real. On that circle, a stream of blue light spread into beautiful colors, and he wondered, has my mana pool really increased? Just by eating it, my mana capacity went up. Frowning at that, he realized with surprise, if the mages learn this, they'll probably sweep the lake clean. I wonder if it works for Rixel. I must let him try it later. Suddenly, Leon glanced suspiciously at the strange vial. He gently stood up, peeked inside, and said, let's see. A pink gem appeared inside, making Leon widen his eyes and ask vaguely, what is this? The system notified, that is the essence of the labyrinth carp, capable of restoring mana. He took the essence in his hand, studied it intently, and wondered dreamily, this is the first time something has appeared in my area. Could it have some huge effect? Then Leon suddenly froze. He calmed himself and quickly grinned slyly. He immediately tapped the system screen and said, "This makes me so curious. Besides, with so much going on, I haven't had time to focus on alchemy yet, right?" He sighed. "Better store it for now." Looking at the system display, Lun was secretly pleased. "I've collected all the herbs I've found, so there are a lot now." In the distance, two small mushrooms were sprouting, making him exclaim, "Moreover, the labyrinth has countless materials. Mana is everywhere and no one disturbs me." Thinking that, Leon smiled softly. Observing around, he said, "Come to think of it, this place." Standing amid the dreamy space filled with flowers and lush green trees, he declared with certainty, "Isn't this a fast-level hunting ground made just for me?" At the thought, his face immediately showed lustful hunger. He licked his lips and rubbed his hands cunningly. "Good, very good. It seems the end of this labyrinth has more to exploit than I thought." In the still sky, shooting stars silently slid by, creating a majestic and peaceful scene. At the same time, Leon remembered and told himself, "But first I have to finish this grilled carp." The dawn light began to shine everywhere. This was another day of survival in Leon's labyrinth. Each day passed oddly peacefully for him. Today, Leon continued leveling with labyrinth crayfish whose sweet taste delighted him. He caught 3 of them today. Leon held them up, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Am I getting lucky? Then he brought them ashore for the system to store. Suddenly, Leon vaguely wondered, "There's still leftover flour from when I made cookies before. Should I make crayfish soup?" He walked barefoot peacefully, stepping leisurely on the cool green grass, feeling in harmony. "I'm gradually getting used to life in this labyrinth." As he walked, Leon reflected, "Every morning I collect the fish traps I set the day before and check whether the crops near the forest edge are growing well." Looking at the small tubers in the ground, Leon remarked, "The sweet potatoes and bananas are growing very well." He took a shovel and squatted down, saying, "Good. Today I can take time to gather other things." Leon was absorbed in harvesting, from spicy labyrinth berries to young labyrinth mushrooms to labyrinth crown daisies. He held a crown daisy in his hand and said excitedly, "It's the first time I've seen crown daisy. It's really beautiful." Leon immediately widened his eyes in wonder. Bringing it back and placing it near the campsite would be perfect. The system screen showed a sale price of 300 shilling, which surprised him. What, this can be sold? Leon gazed drowsily at the system description before him, suspicious. There has never been a notification like this before. Is the shilling shop also acting as a marketplace now? He dreamily held the bunch of crown daisy in his hand and wondered, can I sell this right now? But the price on the screen dropped, making Leon frown in confusion. What, it was 300 shilling just now? Why did it fall? Are you haggling with me? Noticing his expression, the system immediately displayed a message. Value is calculated in real time, which made Leon scoff in contempt. So that's how it is. Then he put a hand to his mouth, closed his eyes to think. It seems I can only sell 1-star items right now, and item descriptions must include prices. So to get a fair price, I have to negotiate actively. Suddenly, big question marks appeared on the screen. Thinking this, Leon crept forward with a sly look and held the crown daisy out to persuade. Look closely. If you dry this crown daisy and brew it as tea, it's very healthy. It's not an exaggeration to say it can also be used as an alchemy ingredient. And anyone can brew it easily. Doesn't that make it more valuable? So I think it's worth more than the current price. Hearing that, the system seemed enlightened and began to consider. Makes sense, adjusting sale price. The new value quickly appeared as 280 shilling, which surprised Leon. He frowned in frustration. I just gave you new info, and you only raised the price a little and still charge a commission. Aren't you stingy? The system calmly displayed. Commission is mandatory per shilling shop policy. Seeing that, he sighed in annoyance. Well, if it's the rule, then there's no arguing. But then a gentle notification appeared. The shilling shop always listens to customer feedback. After which the system proposed a new price of 300 shilling and presented yes-no options, which made Leon secretly excited. So it's not entirely rigid. It means if I persuade it, I can sell at a higher price. Inwardly, he vowed slyly, without knowledge, you'll be undercut. But from now on, I can learn more. I'll definitely sell everything at the highest price possible. Meanwhile, he smiled warmly outwardly and said, agree, I accept. As soon as he spoke, the shilling shop announced the item was sold for 300 shilling, and immediately paid out a pouch of money, which he eagerly grabbed. Payment complete. Excellent. Then Leon promptly asked the system, can I sell processed items? The shilling shop quickly confirmed, yes, however there are currently no sellable items in your inventory. It added a warning, cannot sell items that are counterfeit or flawed. Hearing that, Leon put his hands on his hips in agreement and asked further, So you mean if I want to sell, I have to prepare new dishes and make them properly, right? Got it. The shop faded away, and Leon relaxed with satisfaction. Today was a very productive day. He stretched and said comfortably, I've gathered enough ingredients from the forest, time to prepare something to eat. With that, he returned and laid out all the ingredients on the table. At that moment, the system also notified him of a fragrant, spicy recipe. Leon ignored it and excitedly held up a red ingredient, marveling it's peppercorns, whole peppercorns too. Wonderful. Then Leon put the ingredients he had into the pot one by one, exclaiming, all right, first I'll add the meat and the spicy berries to boiling water. Then add the cleaned crayfish heads and claws to make the broth. While doing that, he nimbly prepared other things and said, when the flour has been mixed with water into a pliable dough, I slam it down on the table to increase elasticity, then let the dough rest a bit. Meanwhile, prepare the tender mushrooms and simmer them thoroughly. Lun enjoyed the whole process as he worked. He gently dropped the crayfish bodies in and thought to himself, then add the crayfish bodies, and it'll become an unbelievably delicious seafood soup. Leon stirred steadily, sighing in anticipation, it smells so good. Next, he pinched the dough while instructing. Now that the broth has absorbed the flavors, take the rested dough, tear it into thin pieces and drop them in. Then he gently lifted each small leaf, saying excitedly, finally add a big handful of labyrinth crown daisy. Then simmer a bit more. A pot of soup full of color and aroma appeared before him. Leon cheered excitedly, it's ready, please enjoy. The broth carried a rich seafood flavor perfectly blended. He scooped a little with a spoon, brought it to his mouth and said, taste the broth first. Then Leon couldn't stop praising it. This broth is unbelievably good. The steaming broth instantly dispelled any greasiness. Suddenly he thought of a special dish. What about sujibai? Leon imagined the whole process, each element blending like a symphony. The dough pieces thick in some places and thin in others, giving varied textures. Mushrooms and crown daisy mixed in each bite, creating an interesting contrast. The sweet, fragrant vegetables melded with the broth to create a new layer of flavor. Thinking this, Lun exclaimed, these familiar flavors are dangerously delicious. Then he scooped another piece of meat and said, let's see, taste the crayfish meat. As soon as it entered his mouth, Leon's taste buds exploded. His mind soared and he kept praising it. It's so sweet. The texture is firm and springy like blue crab, but the meat was sweet and carried the distinctive flavor of blue crab. Realizing this, Leon immediately understood. No wonder the broth tasted so good. It turned out to be thanks to blue crab. Then he scooped the next piece with his spoon, a piece of crayfish, a piece of sujibai, then slurped a mouthful of broth. Leon opened his mouth wide and then savored the earthly delicacy. He became a food critic. When he began to feel a little full, he ate a piece of crown daisy to refresh his palate. This combination makes me want to eat forever. Finally, the pot of broth was drained. Lun leaned back and breathed out comfortably, still humming in admiration. It was truly delicious. I've been replenished with a large amount of sugar. Afterwards, he lay leisurely under the shade of a tree to rest after a fruitful harvest session. Suddenly, Leon urged himself up, thinking, don't sleep, get up, gather firewood before the sun sets. He looked around and remarked, it seems I see a suitable tree nearby. Then Leon stood with his arms crossed in front of a tree, evaluating it carefully. This tree is fine. The system indicated this is a low-branch tree with soft, fragrant wood and water-resistant properties. After a moment's consideration, Leon decided to buy some tools. I'll try crafting a few tools. If I can make anything of good quality, I'll sell it at the shilling shop. He held the tools in his hands, jubilant. I've saved shilling for today. Then Leon excitedly picked up the axe and said, a basic woodworking kit for beginners, tools prepared by a master carpenter for novices. It doesn't include high-end tools, but it's sufficient. The system instructed him to chop the trunk along the V-marked red area. Hearing that, Leon swung his arm deftly. In a short moment, he had felled the trunk. Leon happily cheered, done. At the same time, the system notified him of collecting labyrinth wood in sizes from small to large. Leon wiped his sweat, eyes gleaming with delight. Even from a small tree, he got a lot of materials. He hesitated and considered if I saw off the remaining part and carry it back. But before Leon finished speaking, he suddenly noticed something odd. Leon stared, focusing his gaze vaguely, and asked, what's that? Is there something over there? He stepped forward barefoot. Leon froze before that small house, incredulous. My God, there's a hut out here too. He peered in through the window frame, commenting that at a glance it looked completely ordinary. Leon hesitated, wondering if he could use it. There were only a few pieces of furniture and a bed inside. Seeing his hesitation, the system immediately notified him that by the labyrinth owner's authority, he is permitted to use the house. Leon perked up and cheered, indeed. Of course, it's much better than sleeping outdoors for a month. Leon suddenly jolted. Uneasy, wait a moment. He asked the system if the hut could be moved to his main camp. The system affirmed it could. Leon laughed with delight. Excellent. That will make life in the labyrinth for the next month much easier. The system asked if he wanted to do it right now. Leon quickly turned and ran outside, replying, no, wait a moment. He rushed to his familiar spot, thinking that with a proper house he needed to craft a few more tools and clear the main camp first to place the hut. With his quickness, Leon cleaned up very fast. He relaxed, hands on his hips, pointing and saying, okay, put it here. The system warned installation would take some time and make a lot of noise. Leon hesitated, but then he stroked his chin and wondered how it would move. Since this is a labyrinth, it will probably use magic to summon it. From above, a large shadow suddenly appeared, startling Leon. He looked up, his face bewildered and frightened. Don't tell me. No sooner had he finished speaking than the house was dropped hard to the ground, causing everything around to shake violently. At the same time, the system announced that the hut installation was complete. Dust and smoke billowed up. Leon stood frozen, not understanding what was happening. It turned out they moved his house by making it fly straight here, giving him quite a scare. Though a bit shocked, seeing such lush green grass was somewhat comforting. After a week wandering the maze, Leon finally had a thatched hut of his own. The interior was neatly arranged, and the cooking utensils were all provided. By noon, he had finished tidying up, and the pile of lumber was stacked neatly in the corner. With the tool kit on hand, he planned to start making some household items right away. Leon carefully shaved each grain of wood, hoping everything would go smoothly. The result was a pile of extremely ugly items, so bad the system even suggested using them for firewood. He told himself that being this bad the first time was normal. He couldn't expect perfection yet. By the window frame, Leon worked diligently, losing track of time. In the end, the results took shape, and his woodworking skill officially reached apprentice rank 1. At this level, at least the items he made were usable for daily life. He had the idea to try selling some of these items in the system shop. Chisel in hand, Leon focused on finishing the final details. A 1-star wooden flower pot was completed, with a starting price of 1,000 shillings. He smiled schemingly and began registering the item in the system. Leon held up the flower pot to show it off with a confident look. The system only offered 800 shillings, which deflated his enthusiasm. Before he could react, the price was pushed down to 650, and Leon shouted at the injustice. He started a marketing pitch, claiming the wood came from an extremely rare maize timber. This wood was not only durable, but also highly water-resistant and hard to find. Leon went on advertising the product's superior features. Hearing this, the system repriced it up to 1,500 shillings, a real jackpot. He agreed to sell immediately at this bargain price. Money in his pocket, Leon was pleased to see his wallet a little thicker. He planned mass production, but the system warned that if supply exceeded demand, prices would plummet. No matter. Selling a variety of household items was another way to grind EXP quickly. 3 weeks later, Leon switched to grinding fishing skills by the stream. A 2-star snow salmon bit the line, shimmering like a pearl. He completed a rare fishing achievement and earned an extra 3,000 shillings, though his rod was in tatters. Thus, all preparations for the next breakthrough were complete. To reach the skilled rank, he needed at least 5 auxiliary skills at apprentice rank 3 or higher. Looking at the stat board, Leon groaned that grinding these daily skills was truly exhausting. While gutting the fish, a strange object fell out and caught his attention. It was a rare maize salmon eye, worth as much as 10,000 shillings. Seeing the massive sum before him, Leon ached to sell it right away. But instinct told him this was an important ingredient for future potion formulas. So he swallowed his urge to sell and decided to keep it for something bigger. Leon began processing the batch of ingredients he had just harvested in the cauldron. The extraction succeeded, and he obtained a premium maize salmon essence. Light flared up as his alchemy talent shattered its limits and surged forward. His potion-making level officially upgraded to metallurgy specialty. Congratulations to Leon for reaching skilled rank 1. A flood of new recipes poured into his mind, so many that he gasped in astonishment. This promotion was unlike the others. There were even recipes unrelated to poisons or healing potions, like this anti-curse doll. Leveling up felt indescribably good. Leon couldn't stop grinning. When the transmission ended, he finally collected himself. Where his knowledge had once been limited to medicines, he now understood metallurgy comprehensively. He began searching for information on fish essence to see what he could do with it. The system warned that this stuff smelled terribly fishy. Anyone with a weak stomach should not swallow a whole pill. Suddenly, he discovered a brand new recipe that wasn't fully unlocked yet. The recipe required 5 vials of fish essence and 2 salmon eyes, while he only had one eye. Good thing he hadn't sold that precious salmon eye earlier. Misfortune had turned into fortune. Knowing the failure rate would be high due to lacking ingredients, his gambler's streak flared up. He had only one shot. He dropped the ingredients into the cauldron one by one, his heart pounding with anticipation. Woodworking and fishing were fun. But for Leon, nothing was more thrilling than waiting for the outcome of a risky alchemical brew. He stared at the smoking cauldron, his eyes shining with extreme excitement as dopamine flooded his brain. He laughed arrogantly, thinking only amateurs feared failure. True players had to take risks. The lower the success rate, the sweeter the victory would be. He pressed the cauldron lid down hard. Suddenly the cauldron shook violently, the lid threatening to burst off, and Leon panicked, sensing something was wrong. He pushed down on the lid with all his strength, muttering that it must not explode now. Thankfully, he had heat-resistance skills supporting him. If the lid came off now, all his efforts would be wasted. Leon gritted his teeth and endured. After a struggle, the cauldron finally settled. He exhaled in relief, a radiant smile across his face. He'd won. A 2-star pill called Metallurgy Fish Pill appeared, glittering and valued at 15,000 shillings. But on closer inspection, Leon was a bit disappointed. Its quality was only average compared to the effort he put in. Still, not failing was good enough. Wait, its effect is for fishing. He stared at the description, saying a special species of fish would be especially attracted to it. Leon was stunned to realize he'd invested everything to make a fishing bait pill. Are you kidding me? Deep in the stream, a huge dark shape began approaching the bait, signaling an ominous event about to unfold. This is bad. Leon looked at the bait in his hand and finally realized why he'd been fishing like crazy without seeing a single 3-star fish. It wasn't the old rod or his low level. If this could catch a rare one, haggling it off would probably net around 20,000 shillings easily. He smiled with calculation. In Leon's mind, a progression path formed. Catch rare fish to make better bait, then push straight toward legendary level. Just thinking about it excited him. But he shook his head and told himself money wasn't the point now, and eating it for mana would be a waste. Best not to sell. His original goal wasn't money or mana. Since he was leaving soon anyway, Leon decided to go all out one last time. He stepped barefoot to the water's edge. He carefully hooked the specialty bait onto the hook. This was all the savings he'd gathered after a month of grinding. The cast sliced decisively through the silent surface. Leon planted his feet, took a deep breath, and steeled himself for a final relaxing session in the maze. Meanwhile, at the Grand Astery Manor, the head of the family sat pensively at his desk. Sylvia reported there were only 2 days left until the deadline the young master had set. The old man sighed and admitted he already knew. Worry showed on his face, but he kept the calm of a family patriarch. He confessed he normally couldn't bear to watch such things. Thanks to Reichsel, the situation had become a bit less bad, or rather he was trying to handle it more maturely. He remembered when that child received the proposal. He'd been furious then, ready to take a cane and confront the prince for daring to aim at his daughter without knowing his place. Sylvia smiled gently and suggested that if he was so worried, he should prepare properly to welcome Leon back. She looked at her master with understanding. The patriarch perked up and asked if she had any good ideas. The sharpness in his eyes softened. The maid proposed booking a full package at the newly upgraded Esther Hotel. At that, both nodded, feeling they'd found the optimal way to compensate the young master after a month in the maze. Sylvia promised to prepare immediately. She turned and left, leaving the patriarch lost in his private calculations. The story of the maze's collapse cast a sudden pall over the room. Sylvia looked toward the towering bookshelves, her mind full of thought. The patriarch turned to reassure her that she needn't worry too much. He seemed to understand the loyal maid's feelings. Sylvia smiled faintly, saying that although the path to freedom had vanished with the maze's fall, she'd been quite happy lately and didn't care much anymore. Leon's grandfather opened his mouth to say something, then stopped. He shook his head, his expression turning more serious as he thought of other matters. He admitted Leon was indeed his grandson, but the boy had a knack for causing outrageous trouble. The image of Leon beaming with a pile of herbs flashed as proof. He had a hunch that over the past month Leon had surely wreaked havoc in that maze. That worry proved not unfounded. He even suspected his grandson might have brought back that thing from deep inside the maze. An ancient contract hovered in his mind. Back in the present, the sun had begun to set, dyeing the sky red. Lullen still sat patiently by the fire, rod in hand, waiting. With his shabby rod and just one bait, he felt like a novice angler if any expert had seen him. The sunset glowed brilliantly on the lake. He told himself the beauty of fishing was accepting lost bait and patiently waiting to finally catch that one fish. Leon stared at the water with hope, but the truth was hours passed with not a single nibble. Leon began to feel discouraged. The lake seemed dead. Not a single fish broke the surface. The eerie silence made him uneasy, as if the lake had frozen solid. Suddenly the water bubbled. Leon flinched. His gut told him a massive predator was lurking just below. He cried out in surprise. The bobber was yanked hard downward. "It's biting!" Leon focused all his attention, gripping the rod as it trembled. Force from below overwhelmed him. He felt the fish's ferocity through every muscle, and his confidence surged. The surface exploded as the fish fought, sending out giant waves. Leon knew at once. This was the rare three-star catch he'd been hopping for. He had to brace with all his strength to hold the rod. The pulling force nearly dragged him into the lake. He grit his teeth and endured. A gigantic tail slammed the surface, spraying white foam. Leon's eyes widened at the monster's immense size. He hadn't expected it to be this huge. If he let it keep pulling like that, the line would snap. Leon realized he had only one chance to turn the tide. He concentrated fully. Leon's hands were raw and reddened from friction, but he didn't loosen his grip. This was the decisive moment after a month of effort. He thought to himself, and then, with an immense yank, Leon hoisted the fish out of the water. A brilliant radiance burst from the prize as the young man shouted in resolve. The rod snapped with a dry crack. Its durability had been exhausted by that final blow. Leon stood stunned, staring at the broken pieces in his hand. The system announced the rod was completely destroyed. Still, what mattered most was the fish reflected in Leon's eyes. A smile spread across his face. The system congratulated him for catching the May's 5-color sturgeon, 3-star. This extremely rare species had eyes that glittered like topaz. Its value was immeasurable. Leon couldn't believe it. He cradled the giant fish thrashing on the grass. "I actually caught something this huge," he said proudly. His excitement surged. He wanted to take a legendary photo right away. He fumbled awkwardly, flustered by the fish. Then he smacked himself to calm down. "Get a grip. This isn't the time for that." Leon reminded himself and prepared for the next step. With the catch secured, he needed to process it while it was fresh. Leon lugged the massive fish toward the hut, muttering that he had to hurry. The satisfying click of the knife sounded sweet. Leon butchered the fish in excitement. The blade was sharp, letting him harvest a bounty of 3-star sturgeon essences. A veritable bumper crop. And there it was, the most precious prize. The 3-star 5-color sturgeon eye. Leon held the gem-like orb aloft, grinning. He'd finally landed something top-tier. Wasting no time, he began the smelting process. He dropped the sturgeon eye into the magic cauldron, full of hope for this outcome. But high-grade materials reacted differently. The cauldron shook far more violently than when he made bait, and Leon broke into a sweat from the heat. Thanks to the blessing of the fire spirit he'd just received, his heat resistance spiked, letting him hold his hands steady on the boiling cauldron rim. Leon gritted his teeth and focused, telling himself that after all the hard work to catch that fish, he absolutely could not fail at the final step. Night fell and then gradually gave way beneath the moon. Leon stayed up through the night to guard this important batch of elixirs. At dawn, when sunlight streamed through the window, he wearily let go. His arms felt like they might fall off after a night of continuous cultivation. He collapsed beside the magic cauldron, eyes rimmed dark from lack of sleep. He couldn't believe he'd stayed up all night just waiting for this batch to cool. Seeing things had stabilized, Leon clambered up, hands trembling as he reached to lift the cauldron lid. The most nerve-wracking moment after a month had arrived. When he opened it, a blinding beam of light shot up to the rafters. Leon squinted and peered inside with hopeful eyes. Before him appeared a 4-star 5-color pill of supreme quality. At the same time, a notification announced his alchemy skill had risen to Adept Level 2, a real leap forward. Holding the glittering pill, Leon burst with joy. He'd actually achieved the impossible using only materials he'd gathered himself. Reading the item's description, he was even more stunned to learn it permanently increased a large amount of pure mana. No wonder it was top tier. Just hearing its effect made his mouth water. Without hesitation, he popped the pill into his mouth. "Why the hell not?" he muttered, then chewed and swallowed his prize. Instantly, an eruption of energy surged through him. Leon felt mana rolling within, enveloping his body like a blazing blue flame. He squeezed his eyes shut and focused his whole mind to guide the immense energy. This was the critical moment to fully absorb the pill's potency. Mana began pooling at Leon's feet, forming intricate magic circles. He pushed them all toward the center of his mana core with everything he had. The system kept announcing, "The first mana circle has been filled." Congratulations, you have mastered Circle 1 and learned 3 basic spells. An unbelievable breakthrough in power. Leon stared at his hands in dazed disbelief. The lightness and surge of energy felt utterly different. He still couldn't believe he had become a true mage. He whooped with joy, clenching his fists in excitement. From someone with no mana at all, he now officially possessed the first magic circle. Insane. At that moment, the system chimed again. The maze restoration process is complete. You may now exit freely whenever you wish. Good news kept coming. Leon was moved to tears when he saw his name displayed as current owner of the maze. All his effort and perseverance over the month had finally paid off. Wiping his eyes, Leon quickly packed his things into his bag. He hummed as he worked, elated to finally be returning home after this stormy journey. He turned for one last look at the wooden hut he had built with his own hands. In the morning light, it looked oddly peaceful, nothing like the frightening place it had been when he first arrived. He was glad the maze would preserve the hut's condition, so he'd have somewhere to return. His carpentry work and the shillings spent on decorations hadn't been wasted after all. Skipping along, he cheered at completing the Survive 1 Month in the Maze challenge flawlessly, a dopamine-filled journey full of surprises. Suddenly, the system notified him. During restoration, an unclaimed item was found and requires owner confirmation. Leon froze, curious what it could be. He wondered if it might be another secret treasure left by the hero. The thought made his eyes sparkle. Let's see. The item materialized in shimmering light, but it didn't look like a treasure at all. Leon was disappointed to find it was just an old rolled-up scroll. He picked up the scroll, puzzled. This clearly wasn't an equip or elixir, just some forgotten document. As he unfurled and read a few lines, Leon's expression changed. A contract? He murmured skeptically at the strange clauses inside. The more he read, the more wrong it felt. Leon narrowed his eyes, his face growing very serious as he delved deeper into the scroll's contents. The contract stated, "The wizard may not use magic beyond prescribed limits, must alter appearance according to the master's lifespan, and must remain absolutely loyal as a servant to the Astery family. Violations will incur severe punishment." Leon was horrified. He shouted, "Isn't this blatant labor law abuse?" He couldn't believe his Astery family was basically a sweatshop exploiting workers so cruelly. Looking closely at the signature below, Leon was stunned to recognize the owner of the contract as Sylvia, his close maid. It turned out she was actually a wizard bound by these absurd terms. He wondered why a powerful wizard like Sylvia would agree to sign such an unfair, enslaving contract. The truth filled Leon with rage and sorrow. Then he read the final line. All of this was in exchange for a single chance to live as a human within the Astery Manor. Leon was stunned by this brutal reality.